This guy looks so cool. This is our protagonist, Cissuna Cromgall, who just a few seconds ago decided to walk the path of a battle mage. He destroyed this gigantic black iron stone in just 10 seconds. This stone is so hard that it would take even an instructor 30 minutes to destroy it. And Cissuna did all of this just to catch the headmaster's eye. Only then, could he learn duel system magic from him? And the reason he knows this is because Cissuna is a regressor who has just returned after being defeated by the demon god. This all started a few hours ago at some point in the future. Humanity is on the brink of extinction, and the one responsible for this chain of events is the demon god Vindrake. No one knows where this guy came from. But after his sudden appearance from the sky, he brought countless monsters with him. Under his command, these monsters began to rampage across the continent. Faced with such an overwhelming number of monsters, humanity was gradually defeated and overpowered, leading to this final battle. However, humanity still had a sliver of hope, these 5 talented mages. Humanity's strongest mages have risen up to fight the demon god. Upon seeing the 5 of them, the monsters went into a frenzy, charging forward without any regard for their own lives. And facing such a terrifying wave of monsters, Cissuna remained calm and commanded the others. "Everyone prepare your magic!" At his words, the other 4 immediately began to cast. On his command to fire, all 5 of them began to unleash their magic. The power from the top 5 mages was truly not to be underestimated. The monsters that had just charged forward were instantly blown to pieces, and at that moment, Cissuna saw something up ahead and shouted, "The demon god Vindrake!" Following Cisuna's gaze as the dust settled, the figure of the demon god Vindrake appeared before them. Upon seeing his form, Cissuna declared, "This is the day you fall unified magic. Combine all 6 elements and fire at once." "Elemental burst," Cissuna chanted as he began to execute his ultimate spell, and right after that, a colossal pillar of energy shot out from the magic circle, flying straight towards Vindrake. Seeing this, his red-haired teammate behind him shouted, "That support Cissuna." At his words, all 4 of them began to cast their own magic and attack at the same time. The end result was that the demon god Vindrake took the full force of all 5 magic attacks. Seeing this, the red-haired young man began to celebrate, saying, "How do you like that?" But his celebration was short-lived as the figure of the demon god Vindrake slowly reappeared from the smoke, completely unscathed. The blue-haired female teammate saw this and said in confusion, "No way." At the same time, the black-haired guy next to her reacted quickly. He instantly created another fire spell and said, "No, it's not over yet. Attack with more power." At his words, the 4 teammates joined forces and used their magic to attack once more. Only Cissuna noticed something was wrong and shouted, "Wait! We need to observe what's happening." But unfortunately for him, his 4 teammates had already launched their spells at the demon god Vindrake, and this Vindrake guy treated those magic attacks as if they were nothing but air. He didn't even bother to dodge. The moment the spells touched him, nothing happened at all. It was as if they vanished before they could even hit this guy's body. Cissuna, who hadn't attacked and had only been observing intently, realized something. "Our magic is being nullified," Cissuna thought, gritting his teeth. Back to the demon god Vindrake. After taking several magic attacks from humanity's party without a single scratch, he let out a sneer. "Is this the limit of humankind? You insects are ruining my garden. What a bunch of fools." Down below, Cisuna's party had fallen into chaos upon seeing that Vindrake was completely unharmed after all those attacks. "No, it can't be. Magic has no effect on him," the purple-haired girl said worriedly. Just then, the red-haired guy next to her, his face pale, said to Cissuna, "Give us the order." As for Cissuna, he wasn't doing much better. Damn it, there has to be something we can do. Cissuna gritted his teeth thinking, but just then, suddenly an attack came from out of nowhere and struck the red-haired guy, directly causing him to spurt blood instantly as his entire body was sent flying. His condition was unknown. Meanwhile, the rest of the group was surrounded by monsters. Seeing this, the purple-haired girl was about to use her magic to heal the red-haired guy. But then her face went pale as she said, "Cissuna, I'm out of mana." And just like that, humanity's party fell apart. The black-haired mage was sliced in half by the blade of a bee monster. The green-haired female mage was panicking. Under the assault of the lizard monster, meanwhile, the black-haired female mage was captured by an orc, a blade held to her throat. "No, get away from me! Help me, Cissuna!" Their panicked cries rang out. But before our hero could even react, the green-haired girl was swallowed whole by the lizard monster. Seeing his teammate die just like that, so quickly right before his eyes made Cissúna's expression harden, and right after that, Cissuna snapped, roaring, "Stop it, you bastards!" As he spoke, he gathered all 5 elements into a single attack, but before he could even cast the spell, the evil god Vindaraki appeared behind him with a powerful strike. The blow slammed Cissuna flat on the ground, and after a short while, when Cissuna came to after the attack, his body was completely battered. Covered in blood, Cissuna lifted his head to look ahead, and the scene before him truly made his face become as vacant as a man on the verge of death. There was nothing. Before him was a scene of utter ruin with fires burning everywhere amidst the remaining corpses of his comrades. Seeing this, Cissuna clenched his fists and said helplessly, "Is this the end for humanity?" And as he was despairing, Vindaraka's voice rang out from behind him. "Fighting is completely meaningless, Cissuna." After hearing the one responsible for all this, the rage in his heart began to boil over. "No, it's not over yet," Cissuna thought as he began mumbling some kind of incantation. And as soon as the incantation was complete, his right arm was enveloped in a pale white light. Then he threw his fist straight at him. For some reason, this Vindarak guy raised both hands to block the punch, even though he had always stood still before never bothering to defend against any long-range magic attacks. For a brief moment, his face showed confusion, and the result was unexpected. Cissúna's punch had actually managed to injure him. From his perspective, a part of the evil god's gauntlet had cracked open, and purple blood was dripping from it. This sight left Cissuna stunned. It worked. It actually had an effect. How could a low-level spell like that manage to hurt him? Cissuna thought as he backed away to keep his distance. And with his genius mind, he quickly realized something. So that's it. I can defeat the evil god with this. But damn it, to think I only realized it now. Cissuna thought angrily. At that moment on the other side, it seemed the evil god also realized that Cissuna could injure him, so he decided not to drag things out to avoid any further complications. Thus, he began to gather a surge of magical power in his palm. He said, "This is your limit, you insect." And just as he was about to finish Cissuna off, the necklace he was wearing suddenly began to glow. Cissuna saw it. He stared at it, a little surprised. "This is the thing I got from the headmaster." At that moment, an image from the past flooded his mind. The moment he received this necklace from the headmaster. "Is this a necklace of rebirth?" Cissuna asked inquisitively. "On the other side," the headmaster explained, "that's right. It is a necklace that holds the power of the time spirit. It will give you the power to undo one of your regrets." But at the time, Cissuna wasn't very interested in the necklace. "Regrets? I've never had any. Don't you think it would be a waste on me, sir?" His reply truly made the headmaster burst out laughing. "Ha ha! As expected from the top student of the Magic Academy." After he had his fill of laughter, he slowly walked closer, placed his hand on Cisuna's shoulder, and said, "Just take it. I'm sure you will need it in the future." Returning to the present, the necklace in his hand emitted an intense light as Cissuna began to state his wish. My regret, is that I didn't choose that magic. Back then, just you wait, you bastard. Wait until I get that magic. I will defeat you." And as Cissuna yelled this, the necklace in his hand released a terrifyingly bright light, and Cissuna lost consciousness right after. And when he woke up again, Cissuna found himself sitting in some kind of grand hall. Cissuna hadn't even had a chance to figure out what time period he was in, when suddenly a blonde-haired boy behind him tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Don't just stand there looking so dazed. Cissuna, it's your turn." Hearing the familiar voice, Cissuna turned around shocked and said, "Leo." He then stared intently at the boy, this blonde-haired boy, and thought Leo went missing before the evil god appeared. Cissuna looked at his surroundings and realized, this is the Magic Academy. Then I've really gone back 15 years. I won't fail again. This time I will defeat the evil god, he vowed to himself. While he was lost in his thoughts, his friend Leo had to remind him once more. "I said it's your turn. We're in the middle of the blessing ceremony." My bad," Cissuna said, flustered. He then started walking up to the podium. His approach caused a few students below to start whispering. "Isn't that the genius? The best in the Academy's history. I heard he's a master of all types of magic." Back on the podium, a teacher opened the book in his hands. Immediately, a strong gust of wind emanating from the book blew through Cisuna's hair. At that moment, Cissuna began to think. There are many different types of magic, and using them requires different techniques. That's why you have to choose a primary type of magic to focus on. Learning magic of a different type is incredibly difficult. It's like trying to worship two gods at once. And as he was thinking this, countless symbols appeared floating around Cissuna. The teacher in front of him spoke. "Cissuna Chrome, please choose the type of magic you wish to use." He then pointed to a symbol shaped like a pentagram and said, "Well, of course you'll be choosing this one, won't you?" As for Cissuna, after hearing the teacher's words, he considered it. Ranged magic, huh? Normally it would be the right choice. You create elements from mana and launch them at the enemy. It's safer to attack from a distance. That alone is usually enough to defeat any enemy. In the future, I became the world's strongest mage with ranged magic, but it was useless against the evil god. With that thought, Cissuna turned and stared intently at a magic symbol shaped like a spear. That action alone made the teacher and the students below break out in a cold sweat for him. Even his best friend Leo was confused and spoke up. "What are you doing, Cissuna? You said this morning you were going to choose ranged magic. Are you choosing close quarters magic now? That's the worst of the worst." Meanwhile, the teacher also felt the need to warn him. "Cissuna, that path focuses on body enhancement. You can only attack opponents at close range. This school of magic has been all but abandoned. It's like charging onto a battlefield of bows and guns with nothing but a stone axe. Don't throw your future away," he said with concern. Cissuna understood the professor's worries perfectly well. "I know. A mage who chooses this path is considered hopeless, but to fight the evil god Vindarake, this is the only way to defeat him. To do that..." Cisuna's resolve hardened. Then his hand became enveloped in a layer of mana. To the utter astonishment of the teacher and all the students, Cissuna reached out his hand and crushed the symbol that was floating in front of him. The symbol immediately dissolved into a stream of light that wrapped around his arm, finally settling as a crest on the back of his hand. "I'll choose this, and I'll defeat that bastard of an evil god," Cissuna vowed to himself. After his blessing ceremony was complete, he looked at the crest now etched onto the back of his hand and smiled satisfied. But naturally, his decision left the students below in disbelief. The one who had the strongest reaction was the teacher. He immediately slammed his book shut and said, trembling, "I was going to teach you everything I know. If you had chosen ranged magic, you could have become the strongest mage, and I could have shared in that glory. And yet you chose not to," he yelled in anger. This man was Cyrus, head of the Academy's ranged magic department. As for Cissuna, at this moment, he paid no mind to the angry words of the old man. "Glory, huh? All of that will be meaningless in just 15 years. 15 years until humanity is destroyed. 5 years until the evil god appears. I have all the knowledge from the start, but I have practically zero experience with magic. Close combat. The problem is how. How can I improve before the evil gods appear?" Cissuna muttered as he started to head down, leaving a furious Cyrus behind him. Then not long after that, once all the students had chosen their primary magic, an announcement rang out to remind them. "Second-year students who have completed the entrance ceremony, and please proceed to your specialized classes." Hearing this, Cissuna was startled into remembering. Right, where is the close combat magic class anyway? Thinking this, he looked left and right, and trying to find his best friend Leo to ask for directions. But unfortunately, that guy had vanished at some point. With no other choice, Cissuna approached a nearby couple to ask for directions. "Hey, could you help me with directions?" But before Cissuna could even finish his sentence, the couple looked at him like he was some kind of germ. Then they made an excuse to each other. We're going to be late, aren't we?" "Yeah, let's hurry," after saying that they hurriedly ran away from Cissuna. And it wasn't just those two. The others were the same. When Cissuna turned to look at them, they would deliberately gather in small groups and talk amongst themselves as if to show that they were extremely busy and didn't want to pay him any attention. At that moment, a few critical whispers even started up. "He's pretty much finished. Trying to stand out by choosing a different major. He'll learn his lesson soon enough." Thanks to that, however, Cissuna was able to see these people's true colors. Just because I chose a close combat, the way they treat me is completely different from before. Thinking this, Cissuna let out a sigh and mumbled, "I guess I'll have to find it myself. There must be a campus map in the schoolyard, right?" After saying that, Cissuna quickly headed out to the schoolyard to look for a map. And while he was walking, Cissuna suddenly heard a loud shout, "Fireball!" The shout caught Cisuna's attention. "Is someone fighting?" In a place like this, he thought to himself. And from where Cissuna was looking right at that moment, a red-haired girl was struggling to dodge fireballs coming from someone. After backing away to dodge the attack, she yelled at the guys in front of her, "Give it back! That's a precious gift from my mother. she said, her voice and face filled with rage. But faced with this anger, the bullying students only found it more amusing. The chubby one held up a blue hairpin and said, "This hairpin is a magical tool that can store mana right. Something like this is too high class for a commoner like you to own. But don't worry, we'll put it to good use." Meanwhile, Cissuna had already figured out who these people were. The one fighting is from the close combat department, and those other three are from the long-range magic department. Back at the fight, the blonde-haired guy taunted her. "If you want it back, then come and take it by force. Use that pathetic close combat power of yours." As he spoke, he began to create a flame in his hand and threw it straight at the red-haired girl. Faced with a barrage of fireballs flying toward her like this, the girl could only struggle to dodge. At this point, the red-haired girl's entire body was covered in a faint orange light. It was a basic spell from close combat magic, Movement Boost. It can increase mobility to close in on an opponent, but even though she could dodge a few hits, the distance was still too great. Back to the red-haired girl. After dodging the attack, she shouted, "That hairpin! My mom saved up for a whole year to buy it for me. I'll never let it fall into your hands." After saying that, she began to use some kind of magic gathering mana in the palm of her hand. Immediately after, a mana dagger appeared in her hand. Cissuna, watching this, also recognized it. Close combat magic mana blade. But with just that, it would be difficult to win. And just as he thought, the blonde guy, after seeing her use this type of magic, sneered, "Haha, it's useless. I wonder if that tiny little blade can even cut me." After saying that, he launched countless fireballs at the girl. The red-haired girl quickly used the sword in her hand to slash at a fireball in front of her, but even so, she was still caught in the resulting explosion. She was thrown backward. Seeing this, the blonde guy burst out laughing. "Haha, you're pathetic. No matter what you do, you can't touch a long-range mage. You'll probably never understand that in your entire life." After saying that, he launched a few more fireballs at her, and just at the moment when the girl thought she was done for, Cissuna from the side moved as fast as the wind, rushing past the bullies and heading straight for her. And then, in the nick of time, Cissuna managed to pull the girl into his arms. He dodged the fireballs, and his sudden interference made the bullies start grinding their teeth, but Cissuna didn't pay them any mind. He wasn't concerned with their attitude at all. He just turned to the red-haired girl and asked if she knew where the melee magic department was. "I need someone to show me the way there." Hearing this, the red-haired girl was taken aback, but just as she was about to answer, the bullies in front of them realized who Cissuna was and asked if he was Cissuna Chrome. And then they noticed the sigil on the back of Cisuna's hand and said in shock, "Wait, look at the back of his hand. He chose melee magic." And as soon as they saw that symbol, the blonde guy's attitude did a complete 180. "Really? Well, then that's great. If he chose melee, we can beat him up as much as we want." As he spoke, he started conjuring a fireball. Seeing them, Cissuna thought to himself, "Melee magic is indeed weak, but it all depends on how you use it. While observing, I've already figured out how to improve it." Thinking this, he put the girl down, slowly stepped forward and said, "Melee magic is indeed weak. But the quality of a major doesn't decide the outcome of a fight." The red-haired girl behind him saw that Cissuna seemed ready to fight and said worriedly, "Hey, stop it. They're our seniors, you'll get—" But before she could finish, the blonde guy in front shouted, "Too late!" and unleashed a barrage of fireballs at Cissuna. Facing the fire magic, Cissuna began to use his own concentrating magic into his legs and using a speed-enhancing effect. And under the influence of this magic, Cissuna was able to easily dodge all the attacks. "All right, with this speed, I can dodge magic. If I can move freely, I want to try again," Cissuna thought to himself as he started to leap and weave between the attacks, not forgetting to taunt the other guy. "You've only been shooting fireballs this whole time. Can't you use any other elements?" "Shut up," the blonde guy shouted, and despite his tough talk, he was starting to feel the heat. "What are these moves? I can't hit him," the guy thought as he watched Cissuna dance between his attacks. Seeing this, he couldn't hold back his anger anymore and said, "I'm done playing around." As he spoke, he began to gather a large fireball between his hands, releasing it forward as soon as it was fully charged. But it seemed Cissuna wasn't planning to play around with him anymore either, so he created a magic sword in his hand. And just as the fireball was about to hit him, he swung his sword and slashed it in two. The severed fireball vanished instantly, and this incredible feat truly made the blonde guy gape in amazement. He slashed it. Even the girl from the melee department couldn't believe it and asked, "You can cut it?" Cissuna calmly explained, "It's magic against magic. Whoever has better mastery of magic wins, that's all. As he said this, he thought, the reason a person with little magical power became the strongest in the world is because I can control magic with extreme precision. Then he looked at the sword in his hand. Looks like this is more useful than I thought, and if I can combine power and speed, it'll be even better. Back to the blonde guy after Cissuna had just nullified his fireball. He became furious and said, damn it, if that's how it's going to be, I'll just use a bigger one. Who knows what kind of magic he was planning to use next, but his two cronies beside him tried to reason with him. Wait, that's too dangerous. If you go too far, the teachers will show up. But unfortunately for them, the blonde guy had already lost his mind. Shut your mouths, he shouted, and began to chant a spell. But before he could even finish, his eyes widened in shock, because at that moment, Cissuna had shot towards him like a rocket. No way, he's faster than my casting speed, I'm screwed. And just as he thought that, Cissuna was already right in his face, and immediately after, Cissuna gathered magic into his palm, activated his magic fist skill, and delivered a solid punch right into the bully's gut, causing his face to scrunch up in pain. And the result wasn't very surprising for a mage who rarely used physical strength, taking a direct punch like that. His eyes bulged and his jaw dropped, and the onlookers were rendered speechless by the scene before them. Back to Cissuna. After taking down this phony mage, he looked at his fist and thought confidently, just as I thought. As long as I'm within striking distance, I can fight normally even with melee magic. In contrast to his joyful attitude, the blonde guy's cronies had turned pale with fear. Are you kidding me? Melee magic is supposed to be the weakest type of magic there is. He's this strong just by using that. Just then Cissuna, standing opposite them, said, now aren't you forgetting something? Hearing that, the fat guy quickly returned the hairpin, thinking to himself that he'd better listen to this guy from now on. After that thought, he and another guy quickly helped the blonde guy away. Then Cissuna turned to the red-haired girl. This is important to you, isn't it? He said, handing the hairpin back to the girl. Seeing this, the red-haired girl smiled and said, thank you. Then she put the pin in her bag and said, I haven't introduced myself, have I? My name is Layla. Layla Rose Queen, she said, extending her hand toward Cissuna, our protagonist. Seeing this, he also introduced himself, I'm Cissuna Cromwell, as he shook her hand. But her overly enthusiastic attitude made Cissuna a little flustered. I know. You're famous for your compatibility with all magic circuits. So why would someone like you choose close combat magic? Hearing this, Cissuna thought to himself, it's the only way I can defeat the evil god. But it's not like anyone would believe me if I told them. After that thought, he didn't bother to answer and instead asked, by the way, could you show me the way to the building? For the close combat magic department. Hearing him say that, Layla was startled and exclaimed, oh no, the department orientation has already started, hasn't it? We have to hurry, Cissuna said. After that, the two of them rushed towards the close combat magic department building. And at that moment, Cissuna realized why he'd had so much trouble finding it. He couldn't find the building before. So the department building is on the outskirts of the academy. Close combat magic really is unpopular, he thought to himself. Meanwhile, as they were running, Layla turned to him and said, hey, you have to teach me how to create a mana sword like you did earlier, okay? Cissuna heard this and calmly replied, it's nothing special. It all depends on how you control your mana. As he said this, he also thought to himself, that's right. Close combat magic can adapt to any situation. If I can master it, I'll be able to resist the evil god's expulsion and gain another advantage against the evil god. As he thought this, Cissuna began to recall some memories from his past life when the headmaster had called him privately to his office. There he began to take off his gloves for Cissuna to see. As for Cissuna, after looking at the man's hands, he was truly startled, because as he could see, there were two different sigils engraved on the back of each of the headmaster's hands. Different ones. Impossible. 2 primary magics, Cissuna exclaimed in astonishment. Normally, a person can only choose one primary magic. The one on his right hand is summoning magic, but I've never seen the sigil on his left hand before. Thinking this, Cissuna couldn't hold back his curiosity and asked, Headmaster, what is that sigil? The headmaster, on the other hand, Betty, hearing him, simply said calmly, I will tell you when the time is right. Because it's you, I will entrust you with the secret of this second magic. But unfortunately for Cissuna, in the end, the headmaster never taught him that magic. Because after the evil god appeared, the headmaster was assassinated. He must have sensed the danger with his second magic. This time I will definitely learn it and change my destiny. As Cissuna was thinking this, the department building appeared before them. There it is. Layla cheerfully pointed ahead. Turning to Cissuna, she saw he was still deep in thought. The problem is, how do I gain the headmaster's recognition in my current state? While he was still thinking of a way to get into the headmaster's good graces, a bald man was already standing at the department building. The moment this man saw them, he started to scowl and said, "Not only are you late, but you brought a girl with you, Cissuna Cromwell." From his face and his tone, it seemed he really disliked Cissuna. Hearing this, Layla quickly tried to explain, but it's because... But before she could finish, the bald man cut her off. No excuses. No matter how great your achievements are, they're worthless here. Now that you're in the close combat magic department, you're just trash. He said this while poking a finger into Cisuna's chest, and in response to this provocation, he grabbed the man's hand tightly and said, "You're making a huge mistake. You're a professor in this department, aren't you? Don't you have any pride in the subject you teach?" Then for some reason, hearing Cisuna's words, the bald guy began to growl with rage. "Proud you say, hey you brat. How dare you act that way toward your own professor, huh?" As he spoke, he grabbed Cissuna by the collar. "There are still many undiscovered possibilities for close combat magic." "I believe so," Cissuna said calmly, and that very attitude only made the bald guy even more furious. "You damn little brat. It looks like I'll have to shatter that ego of yours myself." With that, he turned away and said, "If you've got so much energy to run your mouth, why don't you come over here and show me?" As he spoke, he led Cissuna and Layla to a training ground where countless students were relentlessly punching and kicking at boulders in front of them. But these rocks were truly incredibly hard, just like this young man with blue hair. Even when he used all his strength to create a mana sword and slash at the boulder in front of him, it barely did any damage to the rock. He was even knocked backward. "Damn it, I can't even make a single crack," he grumbled in frustration. Meanwhile, the bald guy began to explain to Cissuna and Layla, "This is the test to determine your class ranking. There's a crystal embedded in the center of this obsidianite. You have to get it out as fast as you can. Anyone who fails will be punished," he told Cissuna with a look on his face as if he was eagerly waiting for him to fail. Then the scumbag turned to the other students and yelled, "It's been an hour and still no one's broken through." Hearing this, the blue-haired student from before started panting heavily and said, "That's easy for you to say, sir, but this rock is hard as hell." Even a female student next to him agreed, saying, "How are we supposed to break this with the magic we've just learned? He's probably taking it out on us since we weren't recommended students." The gray-haired student whispered. A student next to him heard this and quickly warned, "Keep your voice down, he'll hear you." Back with the bald guy, after walking around the area, he found an exceptionally large boulder. To make things difficult for Cissuna, and said, "Well now, there's an empty boulder right here, perfect. Show me what this close combat magic of yours can do. You have only 10 minutes. As he spoke, he patted the boulder and looked at Cissuna with an incredibly smug expression. This made Layla, who was standing beside him, cry out in shock, "Wait a minute, 10 minutes! How is it possible to destroy it? An obsidianite in just 10 minutes. And isn't this one way bigger than all the others?" Hearing that, the bald guy just smirked and said, "So what? And by the way, while you were complaining, you're now down to 9 minutes. Turning to Cissuna, he gently touched Layla's shoulder to reassure her. Then he stepped forward and touched the enormous obsidianite. After feeling it for a moment, Cissuna said nothing at all. This only made the bald guy even more smug, and he said, "Heh heh, cat got your tongue. Well, if you bow your head and apologize, I might give you some more time." In the face of his smugness, Cissuna coldly replied, "No. 10 seconds is more than enough." "What?" the bald guy said with a scowl. Hearing him say that, Layla, who was behind him, warned anxiously, "That's too reckless." Cissuna turned back to the bald guy, who was secretly gloating. What an idiot. This obsidianite isn't just big, it's also incredibly dense. Even it would take me 30 minutes to destroy it. Thinking this, he started to speak arrogantly again. "There are no second chances, you hear? You said 10 seconds, so you've got 10 seconds. All right then, I'll show you," Cissuna said as he began to gather magical energy in his right palm. At the same time, he had his own intentions. To be recognized by the headmaster, I need to at least show this much. I can't let something as trivial as this stand in my way in this department. With that thought, he created a mana sword in his hand and thrust it straight toward the obsidianite in front of him. And just as his sword made contact with the obsidianite, absolutely nothing happened. Not even a single scratch appeared. Seeing this, the hairless guy burst out laughing. "In the end, you're all talk and nothing more. Do you have any idea what the punishment is for disobeying me, your professor?" But before he could even finish his sentence, a few cracking sounds echoed from the front, right at the spot where the tip of the sword had touched. The cracks began to appear, spreading outwards, and right after that, this entire supermassive rock suddenly shattered into countless pieces. The bald guy over here just stared blankly, not understanding what was happening, and at that moment Cissuna had already quickly grabbed the crystal from inside the rock and held it out in front of the man's face, saying, "You see? Exactly 10 seconds. Layla, seeing this, cried out in amazement. He really did it. Even the other students couldn't believe their eyes. That giant rock? Maybe he's even stronger than the professor. These whispers reached the bald guy's ears, driving him crazy. No way, I won't accept this. He must have cheated. That rock is so hard it shouldn't have broken even after 10 minutes. So how could he smash it in 10 seconds? He clearly cheated. Cissuna, on the other hand, hearing him spouting all that nonsense, calmly said, 10 minutes for a rock like that. You should quit being a professor and go back to being a student. You damn little brat! The bald guy yelled furiously, but right at that moment, a voice rang out from behind him. Ricari, are you bullying students again? The voice belonged to some brawny teacher, and the moment his voice rang out, it was enough to make the bald guy Ricari break out in a cold sweat. Then, he turned around and stammered, Dean Lionel? The man named Lionel yawned and said, interrupting my nap. Just so you know, the kid didn't cheat. He saw the mana flow inside the rock and aimed for its weakest point. That's why he was able to destroy it so easily. At this, the man took a drag from a cigarette, glanced at Ricari with a dangerous look in his eyes, and said, You call yourself a professor and you couldn't even see that. The bald Ricari broke into a nervous sweat. And just as he feared, Lionel raised his voice and announced, Everyone gather round. I hear Professor Ricari is going to demonstrate his magic defense for us. Ricari jumped in shock, but before he could even react, Lionel was already in a stance ready to attack and said, If you've been training regularly, a hit like this won't kill you. Ricari hurriedly enveloped his body in a stream of magic to defend himself and said in a panic, Wait, it's my fault, I'll never do it again. But unfortunately for him, the brawny man had already thrown his fist. Seeing this, the bald guy quickly raised both hands to defend, and as a result he was sent flying like a cannonball toward the building behind him. Cissuna, who was standing nearby, after witnessing this display of martial prowess, had to think seriously. A single punch broke through a magic defense. That level of power. Who is that person? He's no ordinary man. Back to Lionel after he sent the bald guy flying, he turned to Cissuna and said cheerfully, You said your name was Cissuna or something, huh? You're not bad at all. You're in the low-level close combat department, but your skills are pretty decent. Keep up the good work. After saying that, Lionel turned to leave, but at that very moment, Cissuna spoke up confidently. Professor, just because I'm a close combat fighter doesn't mean I'll lose to the other departments. I will utilize the strength of close combat and become the head of the department. Lionel smiled slightly, then pointed at him and said, You've got some spirit. If you want to learn magic, just let me know. I'll teach you. After saying that, he turned and walked away, thinking to himself, I can't believe there's another foolish brat who thinks the same way I do. I thought they had already chosen him as the representative for the exchange competition, but it seems an unexpected factor has appeared. Next, Lionel gathered all the new students and announced, Let me introduce myself again. My name is Lionel, the head teacher of this department. Welcome everyone to the close combat department. I hate to be the one to tell you this right after we've met, but we're about to decide on the representative for the exchange competition. The exchange competition is a major event where the 8 magic departments compete against each other for honor and prestige. Each department will choose one representative, and the winner will be decided through a tournament. Before I regressed, I was the one who won the exchange competition. As the representative of the long-range combat department, and with the principal's recognition, I can't let the main representative spot get away. Just as Cissuna was thinking this, he saw a few fragments of black meteorite at his feet. Muttering, Fragments of the black meteorite, huh? From above, Lionel seemed to notice Cisuna's gaze and began to speak. Hey, Cissuna, you're not the only one who passed the test. Before you all arrived, someone else had already retrieved the crystal. What's more, he did it using only his fists. Hearing this, Cissuna understood everything and thought, So these fragments at our feet were sent flying from over there. As Cissuna was thinking, he glanced to the side where a large student was sitting alone. Then Lionel's voice rang out again. Hey, Drago Oak, you too, come over here. The large student named Drago heard this and started walking towards everyone. He looked at Cissuna and said, So, you're Cissuna Cromgel, huh? You have a talent for other powerful long-range forms of magic. So why did you choose close quarters combat? Because there's something I need to do with close quarters magic, Cissuna said calmly. In response to his answer, that Drago guy flew into a rage. Shut your mouth! Then what's with that weak-looking body of yours, huh? For generations, my family has excelled in close-quarters magic. Even I have spent 17 years training this body, for that very purpose. As he spoke, he stomped his foot hard on the ground and got into a fighting stance. And right after that, this big guy threw a punch straight past Cissúna's face. It was an incredibly powerful fist, so much so that the wind pressure it generated alone caused the students behind them to sway and lose their balance. Meanwhile, Drago began staring intently at Cissuna and declared, "Fight me. I won't let the representative position fall into the hands of a phony who treats close-quarters combat like a joke." Back to Cissuna. He began to recall his memories of this Drago guy. Drago, huh? I remember hearing his name in the battle for the representative position before I regressed. The only famous person from the unremarkable close-quarters combat department. Thinking this, Cissuna smiled and replied, "All right then. If you want to fight, let's fight." Seeing that his two students had agreed to a match, Lionel cheerfully walked over and said, "So you two have made an agreement, have you? Excellent. In that case, the match will be held in 1 week." After hearing this, Drago turned to leave, saying, "Don't even think about running away in the next week. Got it? If you're a close-quarters mage, you fight with your life on the line." And just like that, the match was suddenly decided. This also caused the other students to start gossiping. "Hey, who do you guys think will win?" one student asked. The girl next to him didn't seem to think much of Cissuna, so she immediately said no matter how talented he is, there's no way he can beat Drago, right? Even Layla, who had already witnessed Cissúna's true strength, couldn't help but feel worried now and asked, "You can win, right?" And in response to her worry, Cissuna calmly gave a blunt answer, "Of course not. In my current state, there's no way I can match the physical strength that Drago has trained for so many years." Cissuna thought to himself, then said to her, "But I have a secret plan." After saying that, he immediately left the training grounds. Layla behind him hurriedly chased after him and asked, "Hey, where are you going?" And just like that, the two of them left the close-quarters magic department building and went deep into the forest. And not long after, Layla's eyes widened at the sight before her. "Where is this place?" Layla said in astonishment, seeing a gigantic ancient tree in front of her. Hearing this, Cissuna calmly said, "It's a secret training spot that only I know about. In this place, I'll become 3 times stronger." As he spoke, he touched the ancient tree with his hand. Then something special happened. A stream of blue magical energy began to rise from his feet, enveloping his entire body. Hearing his words, Layla on the side exclaimed in awe, "It's enormous. This must be a divine tree that's over 1,000 years old." Back with Cissuna, after being enveloped by the blue magical energy, he thought to himself, "Looks like I've been acknowledged again this time." Seeing this, Layla asked, "What is that light?" "This is the blessing of the divine tree. Only those who are acknowledged by the divine tree are granted this. Thanks to my holy mana attribute, I can recover mana. As long as I'm here, I don't have to worry about running out. Basically, I can train until I reach my absolute limit." That's what Cissuna said. Hearing him say that, Layla felt a bit of admiration and thought to herself, "Wow, but Drago is a natural-born close combat mage. He helped me get my hairpin back, so this time it's my turn to help him." "All right, time to go scout things out," Layla thought as she headed to the close combat department's training room. To put it simply, it was a room full of bodybuilding equipment, and while everyone else was completely exhausted and out of breath just from lifting a few weights, Drago was training like a maniac. The enormous barbell in his hands seemed to have no weight at all, and this left Layla stunned. "What the heck? He's the only odd one out in here." Just then it seemed Drago had finished his warm-up, so he turned to Lionel beside him and said, "Professor, are the black ironstones still on the field?" Hearing this, Lionel blew out a puff of smoke and said, "Hey, are you planning on breaking all those stones?" "Not at all. I'm just borrowing them for a bit," Drago said as he walked out of the training room. And by borrowing, he meant this big guy started tying those stones securely to his back and then began doing push-ups. Layla, who was tiptoeing behind him, saw this and her face turned pale with fear. No way. Is this a joke? Wouldn't getting punched by him be fatal? Cissuna? Will he really be okay? Layla thought worriedly as she rushed off to find Cissuna and tell him. Meanwhile, with Cissuna, he was still sitting leisurely reading some kind of martial arts book. And when Layla ran over and saw this, she couldn't help but yell, "Is this really the time to be so relaxed? Do you have any idea that Drago is doing push-ups with 5 black ironstone slabs on his back?" Cissuna didn't seem very surprised to hear that. "Oh, really?" As expected. Of course, he'd do something like that for his physical training. He could see Layla was worried about him, so he said, "Don't worry, I've already planned for it." After speaking, he activated some kind of magic. That allowed him to read the book at a superhuman speed. For every page, he only needed a single glance to know its entire content. Back to Layla. She was still a bit confused about Cissúna's intentions and asked, "What do you mean?" Cissuna began to explain. Physical enhancement is basically using mana to reinforce and control the nervous system. If you want to train your legs, you just focus on your legs. If you want to train your arms, focus on your arms. In a case where you need to enhance your memory, you just need to focus your attention on your head. And once you can visualize the move in your head, you just have to execute it. With that, Cissuna stood up to practice what he had just learned from the book. First was a high kick. Next, he created a mana sword and performed a few practice slashes in the air. After witnessing this, Layla was completely stunned and said, "That's incredible. You learn moves so quickly, too." Hearing her praise, Cissuna remained calm and said, "No, it's not enough." But just as Cissuna said that, a sudden wave of pain hit him, causing him to collapse to the ground. Layla saw this and rushed to his side, and that's when she noticed it. Cissúna's right arm was bruised purple. She said worriedly, "Cissuna, your injury." Although in pain, Cissuna struggled to prop himself up and said, "I'm fine. I'm just using physical enhancement to temper my muscles. For now, I'll focus on healing. By repeating this process over and over, I can strengthen my body in a short amount of time," Cissuna said as he began to use his magic to heal himself, and his wound healed in the blink of an eye. But even so, Layla was still a little worried and said, "You don't have to push yourself so hard. There must be another way, right?" "No way. I'll never be able to keep up with Drago if I train half-heartedly. After all, he's been practicing close-quarters magic for years. In the time I have left, I have to train using this destruction and regeneration method another 1,000 times. 1,000 times just doing it once is already incredibly painful," Layla cried out in shock. Meanwhile, Cissuna, hearing her, he just smiled and thought to himself, "Not exactly. Whenever I train this hard, I remember that time. Back when my best friend was still at the orphanage. I didn't even know how to use magic then, so I practiced every day, and naturally I failed countless times. But even so, I kept training. It might not have made a huge difference, but I was gradually improving." Thinking this, Cissuna smiled and spoke to Layla. "As long as I keep getting stronger, this is nothing." And so Cissuna and Layla began to train together, starting with stretching exercises. They moved on to exercises to build stamina and strengthen his mana sword. And through this harsh training, Layla began to see Cissuna in a different light. Someone once said that Cissuna was just naturally talented, but the truth is he works harder than anyone I've ever seen, Layla thought, watching Cissuna do push-ups with 5 boulders on his back, and his incredible progress made Layla happy for him. Time flew by, and soon the day of the match between Cissuna and Drago arrived. Now both of them were on the dueling stage with their teacher Lionel as the referee. "So you didn't run away, huh?" Drago said, staring straight at Cissuna. Hearing this, Cissuna confidently replied, "I don't run. Besides, I'm representing the close combat department." And after their verbal sparring match, Lionel announced, "Are you two ready? Begin!" Immediately after the command, Cissuna rushed forward. The moment he closed the distance with Drago, he unleashed a tiger strike. But on the other side, Drago quickly brought up both arms to defend, taking almost no damage. Seeing this, Cissuna spun on his heel and landed a kick right on the big guy. Ha! It sent Drago flying back several meters, but it didn't seem to cause much damage. Cissuna started to think. He just used a magic shield to block it. At that moment, Drago's expression across from him turned serious. And right after that, a look of shock appeared on Cissúna's face because, in a mere instant, the big guy had closed the distance to him. At the same time, Drago began gathering magic into his fist and threw an incredibly powerful punch right at him. The attack was so strong that the resulting wind pressure alone made the other students rush to shield their faces. Seeing this, Layla cried out in worry, "Cissuna, back on the dueling stage." As they waited for the dust to settle, everyone saw that Cissuna was still unharmed after that attack. It looked like he had used his hand to push Drago's arm aside, dodging the blow. This lightning-fast exchange between them made the other students cry out in amazement. "This fight between them is insane." "Are you sure they both just leveled up?" Back to Cissuna. After blocking Drago's first attack, he realized something. "I get it," he thought. "If I take a direct hit, it's all over." And with that, the battle resumed. It began with Drago throwing a straight punch, but Cissuna ducked and dodged it. Then right after that, Drago threw a hook, but our hero managed to dodge it. Seeing this, Drago got even more furious and increased his attack speed. This time, Cissuna couldn't dodge in time and had to raise both arms, focusing his magic into them to block the punch. and then he threw another punch with Cissuna still concentrating his magic to defend. The fact that Cissuna kept defending without fighting back finally made Drago snap and yell, "What's wrong? Why do you only defend on the other side, Cissuna?" Hearing him said nothing and remained focused on his defense. "In the end, your body is just as weak as ever. Looks like you've reached your limit," Drago said coldly. Meanwhile, up in the stands, Layla watched as Cissuna was being overwhelmed. She thought with concern, even after all that harsh training, he still can't beat Drago. Back on the dueling stage, Lionel, who had been observing his two students fight this whole time, noticed something. At a glance, it looks like Cissuna is being overwhelmed, but that kid is using his magic to parry the blows. Perfectly! From his point of view, Drago then began to spin, launching a roundhouse kick at Cissuna, but Cissuna quickly blocked it with both arms. Seeing this, Drago clacked his tongue in annoyance, then began to unleash a flurry of punches at Cissuna. And in the middle of this assault, he didn't forget to taunt him. "You nobles always look down on close combat, but my father and I were born into a family that has perfected it. Do you have any idea how much humiliation we've had to endure?" he yelled. He also began to gather magic in his palm, forming a mana sword while declaring, "I will change my own destiny." Meanwhile, opposite him, Cissuna had also formed his own mana sword. It seemed the battle between them was now truly beginning. After seeing each other draw their swords, neither of them said a word. They charged at each other at the same time. It seems that even with swords, Drago was still a step ahead, repeatedly pushing back our protagonist, Cissuna. He primarily used his agile footwork to dodge and counter when he saw an opening. Just now, Cissuna lunged at Drago, but he leaped high into the air to dodge the attack. Then right after that, the burly student then used his falling momentum to bring down a powerful slash. Luckily, Cissuna dodged just in time because with an attack that strong, he would have had a hard time blocking it, but Drago had no intention of letting up that easily. The moment he saw Cissuna fall back, he charged forward, and while Cissuna was still off balance, he swung his sword powerfully toward him. Cissuna quickly raised his own sword to block the slash. Then Cissuna spoke. "I understand your words. Aren't we both aiming for the top?" After speaking, Cissuna channeled his strength into his right arm and pushed Drago back. Then Cissuna took the offensive, lunging forward. With just a single slash from Cissuna, the sword of Drago's mana shattered into pieces. At that moment, Drago thought back to Cisuna's recent words. "Aiming for the top, huh?" He smiled at the thought. Next, he gathered energy in his left arm and thrust it straight at Cissuna. Our protagonist reacted instantly. He immediately sidestepped, dodging the punch. Then, quick as a flash, he circled around behind Drago and seized the opportunity. Cissuna used Physical Enhancement Magic Swift to boost his speed, unleashing a flurry of slashes with his mana sword and forcing Drago to raise his arms to defend. Up in the stands, Layla saw this scene. She said gleefully, "It's working." Back to Master Lionel, seeing his two students fight so brilliantly. He thought with delight, Drago's defense and counterattacks are excellent, but Cisuna's mana control and physical enhancement are just as formidable. I wonder which one of them will win. And while the teacher was lost in his happy thoughts, Cissuna was finding things difficult. His defense is too solid. I have to create an opening. And as he was thinking this, Drago suddenly backed away to create some distance. Then right after that, he once again formed a mana sword in his hand, and with the weapon in hand, he didn't hesitate to swing it right at Cissuna. Luckily, Cissuna managed to lean back and dodge it in time, but this also gave Drago an opportunity to press his attack. He let out a loud shout and swung his sword at Cissuna again, and then it was another scene of the two fighting, while one retreated. It seemed Drago wanted to end this quickly as he began pouring his mana into his sword. Cissuna realized it instantly. He's putting all his mana into this attack, and just as Cissuna guessed a moment later, Drago unleashed a slash so powerful it shattered the arena floor into pieces. Luckily, Cissuna managed to dodge, but even so, the shockwave still sent him flying to the edge of the arena. I've finally cornered him. This time, he won't be able to use that footwork of his anymore, Drago thought. Then the big lug began to use some kind of strange technique. It made his entire body seem to swell in size. Bulging green veins started to pop out all over the large man's arms. At a glance, it looked as if Drago had truly gone berserk. And then right after that, he gathered power into his fist and charged straight at Cissuna. Facing the big guy's mighty fist, Cissuna simply focused his mind and watched. And the moment Drago's fist made contact, Cisuna's body vanished like an illusion. An afterimage, Drago thought as he saw the figure of Cisuna's form dissipate upon contact with his fist. And just then, Cisuna's voice rang out from above him. If I continuously focus my mana in one spot, I can create an afterimage of myself. Hearing this, Drago was startled. But before he could even react, Cissuna had already landed behind him and was in a stance to swing his sword. Drago on his side clicked his tongue in annoyance and threw a punch towards Cissuna. It's over, Cissuna muttered, and right after that, he unleashed a slash straight at the big guy's waist, before his fist could even touch him. And after taking a direct hit to the waist like that, Drago's eyes rolled back in his head. The other students in the stands saw this, and their jaws dropped at the swift development of the battle. Mr. Lionel on the side was also impressed, thinking this kid wanted to use his strength for a counterattack. They both did very well, but this time Cissuna was the one who did better. Thinking this, he raised his hand and declared the match over. The winner is Cissuna Chrome. And right after his announcement, that girl Layla jumped for joy while their other friends were also stunned by the outcome of the match. Down below, the large body of their friend Drago trembled as he came to. The guys in the stands could hardly believe what they were seeing. He can still get up after taking that hit. He's seriously tough. Back to Drago's side now. His body trembled with pain as he thought, impossible! That last mana sword attack, he held back. Just then, Cissuna extended his hand to help the big guy up. But seeing this, Drago didn't rush to take Cisuna's hand. He just calmly asked, tell me, what do you fight for? Hearing this, Cissuna looked at Drago for a moment, then said, so I don't lose anyone else, so that nothing more can be taken from me. I will become stronger than everyone. And these words from Cissuna genuinely surprised the big guy Drago a little, but then he seemed to understand something, and said, I get it. You're really strong. I accept my defeat wholeheartedly. After saying that, he took Cisuna's hand and struggled to his feet. Seeing this, Cissuna smiled and praised him. You really do live up to your reputation. And of course, after witnessing Drago's true strength, Cissuna had many thoughts. With that power, he would be a great help in the future battle against the evil gods. Just then, Teacher Lionel approached the two of them and said, having to fight Drago in a close-quarters match like this? You almost lost, didn't you? Then he raised Cisuna's arm high and said to all the students watching, Cissuna has been chosen as the representative for the close-quarters combat department. Time flew by, and a few days later, Lionel led Cissuna to the front of a certain room and said, it's time for the representatives' meeting for the friendly match. It might sound a bit strange, but you'd better be on your best behavior. Yes, sir, Cissuna said quickly. Then he opened the door and went inside. And from Cisuna's point of view, the room was already packed with people. It seemed all the other department representatives had arrived earlier, and he was the last one. Just then, among the representatives, there was an incredibly smug guy with glasses. As soon as he saw Cissuna arrive, he got cocky and said, oh, so the representative from the close-quarters combat department has arrived. Showing up just to make a fool of yourself, how impressive. But Cissuna, on the other hand, after seeing the symbol on the back of the man's hand, he figured it out. This guy is the representative of which department? This symbol. He must be the representative of the spell magic department. Back to the guy with the glasses, he continued to provoke Cissuna. Don't you know anything, you representative from the inferior department? I'm your opponent in the first match. The guy said this as he approached Cissuna, then stomped his foot right on top of Cisuna's. After that, he pointed a finger at Cisuna's chest and said with an extremely punchable look on his face, hasn't it been hundreds of years since anyone from the close-quarters combat department won? A useless bum like you should just go find a corner and train your muscles until you drop dead. As for me... But before this guy could finish barking, his face suddenly twisted and he let out a pathetic scream. The reason was because at that moment, Cissuna had given him a stomp of his own as if wanting to crush the guy's foot. At the same time, Cissuna said coldly, it seems the way you greet people in your department is quite unique, huh? Is this correct? As Cissuna spoke, he started pressing his foot down even harder, which made the guy with glasses wail even more pathetically. Finally, he could no longer maintain his provocative expression, and started to get angry, saying, you bastard. But Cissuna didn't wait for him to finish cursing, cutting him off. Whether we've won in the last few hundred years or not has nothing to do with anything, because this year our close-quarters combat department will definitely be the champion. With that said, Cissuna lifted his foot, causing the guy with glasses to lose his balance. He stumbled backward, and as soon as Cissuna let him go, sure enough, the guy started barking wildly again. Stop spouting nonsense, he screamed. But just then, from the doorway, the sound of several footsteps rang out, followed by the headmaster's voice. Passion is a good thing, but we should let the match decide the winner, shouldn't we? The department representatives who had been watching Cissuna and the guy with the glasses bicker immediately stood up to greet the headmaster the moment he walked in. And Cissuna also stared intently at him, thinking, this is happening just like it did before I regressed. The headmaster is here. The headmaster. And while Cissuna was still lost in thought, a pink-haired girl with a pretty smiling face spoke up. It's truly an honor to meet you, sir. An honor, too. I will absolutely do my best to prove my abilities. Cissuna heard this voice and turned to look at the girl. He then thought, that's Karen from the summoning department. She's as friendly as ever. My formidable opponent from the fierce exhibition match before I regressed. I was the winner that time, but I still have to be careful this time. He turned back to the headmaster. The man also smiled and said to his students, first of all, congratulations on earning your positions as department representatives. I am very happy to witness 8 talented individuals gathered here. I think you've all heard already. The school's exhibition match will be held in a one-on-one format. Your opponents will be chosen at random. First match, close quarters magic, a discipline focused on dueling versus incantation magic, using mana on living creatures and objects. The second match, healing magic, creating miracles and supporting teammates versus long-range magic, defeating opponents without letting them get close. The third match, creation magic, which combines different powers with magic versus summoning magic, which controls spirit beasts from another world. And finally, the fourth match, unique magic versus alchemy, which has the ability to permanently alter compounds. The school exhibition match is also like a practical session for the departments to learn from each other. We will hold it in 10 days. While you wait, you can learn new magic or rest as you please. I very much look forward to witnessing your fighting spirit. From all of you. And hearing these words of encouragement from the headmaster, the students below began to cheer wildly as if they were seeing their idol. And the headmaster, after giving his instructions to the model students, he slowly took his leave. Seeing this, Cissuna realized this was his chance. This was the only place he could meet the headmaster. With that thought, he quickly chased after the old man. And once they were in the hallway with no one else around, Cissuna called out, "Headmaster!" Hearing him, the headmaster seemed a bit surprised, then turned his head and said, "You're the representative for the close quarters department, aren't you? I am Cissuna Chrome. I have a request. If I win, can you teach me your magic?" The headmaster seemed a little puzzled after hearing this and said, "Aren't you studying close quarters magic? I don't think summoning magic would be useful for you." "I mean a different kind of magic," Cissuna said calmly. And at Cisuna's words, the headmaster's eyes widened in shock. But then right after that, his eyes became serious, and he said, "How do you know about that?" As he spoke, he began to release his terrifying aura. Faced with the pressure he emitted, Cissuna felt as if his whole body was caught in a flood. Such incredible magical power, he's clearly wary of me. But this magic is my only hope to fight the evil god. I can't back down. With this in mind, Cissuna steeled his resolve and said, "Even if I can't tell you the reason, a victory for the close quarters department after 100 years will change the entire world." "Aren't you looking forward to that, sir?" Cissuna said this while looking straight at him with eyes full of determination. And this gaze made the headmaster fall silent for a moment before he finally spoke. "What are you plotting? Very well. If you win the championship, I will teach you that magic." Hearing him say this, Cissuna finally let out a sigh of relief and quickly bowed, saying, "Thank you, sir." "But this path won't be simple," the headmaster said. In response to these words, Cissuna replied with determination, "No matter what, I will definitely win the competition. That's the spirit," the headmaster said cheerfully, then turned and left. A long while later, Cissuna was sitting on the wooden bench munching on some bread. At the same time, he was thinking idly to himself, "My future for the next 15 years depends on this. This bread is really good. I have to thank Layla for telling me about it. There are only 10 days left. I have to prepare with everything I have." But just as he said that, a voice suddenly rang out, "No need for that." Immediately after, a giant fist came flying straight toward Cissuna. But Cissuna reacted very quickly, instantly channeling magical power into both hands to defend against the punch. Next, Cissuna used the force from the punch to push himself backward and create distance. Only then did he have a moment to see what on earth had just attacked him. Turns out it was a golem, and the one who summoned this golem was none other than that guy with the glasses. At this moment, he was a little surprised to see that Cissuna was able to block the last attack. "Oh, I was planning to hit your blind spot to catch you by surprise." Cissuna, for his part, started looking at the golem in front of him and thought, "A golem? Did he use a spell to infuse stone with life force?" Thinking this, he coldly asked the guy with the glasses, "What do you want?" Hearing Cissuna say that, the guy started grinding his teeth and said, "It's still about what happened before. There's no need to look forward to any friendly match. A scrub like you dares to humiliate me like that." As he spoke, he waved his hand, throwing several stones onto the ground, and right after that, the stones seemed to multiply, growing in number, while Cissuna on the opposite side began to gather mana into his two fists and said, "This is just the consequence of your own actions." And right at the moment when Cissuna was preparing to take on 4 stone golems by himself, the sound of a couple talking drifted over from a distance. Seeing this, the guy with the glasses clicked his tongue in annoyance and said, "It'd be a hassle to be reported for bullying someone from the close combat department." After saying that, he canceled his control magic on his golems and left. At the same time, before leaving, he didn't forget to say, "When the match starts, I'll be more prepared." Cissuna silently watched him leave. Then he thought, to infuse mana and control it at the same time. He's definitely talented. But don't just leave after making someone drop their bread. What a waste. Cissuna thought, feeling utterly heartbroken over the bread he'd only had one bite of. Time flew by, and the next day, the teacher, Lionel, gathered everyone in the dirt field outside and said, "Today we will prepare for the friendly match. We will analyze the match between Drago and Cissuna. From the other day, have you two figured out what you're lacking?" Lionel said as he turned to look at Cissuna and Drago, and the two of them, having thought about it, answered in unison, "Yes, sir." Hearing this, Lionel smiled and said, "Drago, you go first." "I still can't control my mana and my emotions, sir," Drago said hesitantly. As for Cissuna, he said, "I lack fundamental strength. I was overwhelmed by Drago's power, Teacher Lionel." After hearing both students' answers, he smiled and said, "Very good. Knowing your weaknesses is the first step to improving. Let's try to fix them in today's match, all right?" Just then, Layla from the back asked, "Teacher, is today's training for the friendly match?" "Good question. The opponent in the first match is Noel from the spell magic department. According to Cissuna, he uses a lot of golems for defense and attack. Because golems have physical bodies, the way they fight is fundamentally similar to magic and close combat." At this point, he turned to Drago and instructed, "Today, I will give you two a mission. Drago, you focus on speed. Be relentless like a golem and attack from all directions." "Yes, sir." "And Cissuna, you will have to dodge Drago's attacks and counterattack just like that." The two of them got into their fighting stances. Drago was burning with fighting spirit and said, "Cissuna, this time won't be like the last. I'm looking forward to this." "I'm looking forward to it too," Cissuna said with a smile. After the signal to begin was given, the big guy Drago immediately took the initiative and charged forward to attack. He gathered power into his fist and threw a straight punch at Cissuna, and of course with such a straightforward attack. Cissuna was able to see it and tilted his head to the side to dodge. He even quickly slipped to Drago's right side to prepare a counter. But in the very moment he was about to attack, Cissuna saw Drago's triumphant smile. It was then that he realized with a start that the opening just now was deliberately created by the big guy to lure him into this position. And the result was, Cissuna took a left hook. It was only with great difficulty that Cissuna managed to react and defend himself. "Is my reaction speed too slow?" Cissuna thought to himself as he blocked the stinging punch from Drago. Meanwhile, Teacher Lionel watched his two students fight from the side. He had to praise them. "Well done, Drago, you've balanced both speed and power." And it seems that after hearing the praise from his muscular teacher, Drago got something like a power-up. So he started using the bob and weave technique from boxing to close in on Cissuna, then threw another punch. But our protagonist, perhaps having the spirit of a mouse, dodged it once again. Drago wasn't surprised. He started to turn and threw a left hook aimed at the eye. Cissuna immediately saw the move coming. But then right after that, he glanced to the side and realized it was just a feint. The big guy's real attack was a straight right punch. Luckily for Cissuna, he realized it quickly. If not, taking that hit would have been bad news. Over on the side, Mr. Lionel continued to praise him. "Good observation, Cissuna. Now use your legs to dodge and then counterattack." "Yes, sir." Cissuna quickly replied and began using his nimble footwork to dodge the flurry of attacks from Drago. Then the moment he sensed an opening, he put his strength into it and began to counterattack. The fight went on like this until both of these champs were too exhausted to even stand properly. "Good fight, Cissuna," Drago said, panting heavily, and while they were gasping, for air Teacher Lionel brought them 2 bottles of water, saying, "You both have pretty good physical skills. In the next few days you'll need to be able to handle 4 to 5 golems, you hear?" Hearing this, Cissuna replied, "No matter how much we train, we can't let our guard down." His words made Teacher Lionel very pleased. The kid is perfectly obedient. Drago knows the basics of close combat, but Cisuna's intuition is nothing to scoff at. Time passed quickly, and the day of the exhibition match finally arrived. At this moment, inside a magnificent arena, the announcer's voice boomed, "Yes, the day has finally come, the 781st exhibition match of the Elmerus Academy, among the representatives of the 8 departments who will be the strongest." Meanwhile, the 2 contestants participating in the first match are Cissuna and Noel, who have already taken their places in the arena. And taking advantage of this exhibition, match some guy is holding up a sign to take bets. "Hey, who are you betting on to win? What kind of bet is this?" "The close combat guy doesn't stand a chance," someone shouted upon hearing about the betting. Back up in the stands, the blonde guy who bullied Layla before had also joined in on the gambling. He gritted his teeth and cheered for Cissuna. "Come on, Cissuna, I bet on you. You're today's dark horse." And just as they were all buzzing with discussion, a student suddenly noticed the head of the long-range magic department bringing his department's representative over to watch the fight and said, "Hey, that's their ace." "Wait, long-range magic? Why do they look so relaxed before a match? If things go well, he'll probably have to face the winner of this one." Down in the arena, the announcer declared, "The exhibition matches feature a randomly changing battlefield each time, and this time the fighting stage is a desert terrain." The moment Noel saw this stage appear, he was visibly thrilled. Excellent. Even the other students in his department realized that he had the terrain advantage, and they started screaming and cheering. "Noel, take that brat down! The no-name department is on stage again. How fun?" At that moment, Drago, who was nearby, heard all of these cheers and went ballistic, shouting, "Hey, watch your mouths! Watch closely and see if we're really a no-name." She roared like a lioness, forcing teacher Lionel, who was beside her, to quickly try and calm her down. Back to our announcer, he finally declared, "And so let the first match begin." At that moment, Noel on the opposite side heard the starting signal, took out a black stone, and asked, Cissuna Cromgel, do you know what this is?" Hearing this, Cissuna immediately replied, "Black ironstone." "That's right. To be more precise, it's a core fragment needed to create a golem by combining it with sand." As he spoke, he let the stone drop onto the sand below, and right after that, he used his magic channeling it into the stone below. Then something miraculous happened as a pile of rock and sand mixed together. It began to rise from the ground. Finally, it all connected and formed a giant black ironstone golem. After seeing this stone man appear, he boldly declared, "Not even a sword can leave a scratch on this black ironstone golem." But that wasn't all. He then started to pull out a whole bag of black ironstone fragments and threw them all over the arena. And just like that, dozens of black ironstone golems appeared standing as a shield in front of Noel. At this point, even Layla, who had been watching calmly from the stands, began to feel worried for him. "Just how many golems are there?" she exclaimed in shock. Back to Noel, he flashed a victorious smile and said, "With this much sand, I can create an infinite number of golems. You can't even get close to me." Even the students from his own department believed victory was already in his grasp. The outcome was decided before the match even began. "Hey, close combat fighter, you'd be better off just giving up." Cissuna furrowed his brow. "If you have something to say, I'll gladly listen," Noel said, staring at Cissuna. In response to his demand, Cissuna replied with a bored expression, "How utterly boring. I never expected this to be your trump card." At this, Noel heard the contempt in Cisuna's tone and growled, "What did you say, fine? My golems, crush him." As he spoke, he began to command his army of stone golems to charge straight at Cissuna, and faced with such a massive force, Cissuna remained calm and didn't even bother to dodge. Immediately after, a huge explosion occurred. Dust and sand flew everywhere, obscuring the view of the spectators who had no idea what was happening. Meanwhile, Noel started laughing as if he'd already won. "Haha, have you learned your lesson now?" The extras up in the stands were still wondering what was going on. "There's too much dust, I can't see a thing," someone shouted. The scene shifts back to Cissuna, who was still safe inside the dust cloud. To be more precise, these golems were absolutely nothing to him. For each one of these hulking figures, he only needed a single sword strike to shatter it into countless pieces. After that, Cissuna calmly walked towards Noel and said, "I've figured out everything there is to know about the dark steel stone." Hearing this, Noel, who was on the opposite side, stood there with his jaw dropped in utter disbelief. "Those golems are a special extra durable type, you know." Saying this, he regained a bit of his composure and created countless more golems. "I told you, didn't I? I can make as many of these as I want." With that, he commanded the horde of stone men to charge at Cissuna, but Cissuna still treated them as if they were nothing. In close quarters combat, melee magic is the strongest. It doesn't matter how many golems you create if all they can do is move in such a simple way. I won't lose. As he said this, Cissuna charged forward to send these golems back to the dust, and the result was hardly surprising. For each of these stone men, he only needed a single slash. Just like that, in a matter of seconds, the entire army of stone men Noel had summoned was instantly destroyed. This sight made him panic. Damn it! If that's the case, then the next golems... As he spoke, he began to pull out some dark steel stone to prepare a spell, but before he could, Cissuna closed in on him as fast as the wind. This match is a little unfair to you, Cissuna mumbled, then landed a straight punch to the guy's face, sending him flying several meters away. Meanwhile, the spectators in the stands still had no idea what had happened. What's going on inside that cloud of dust? I can't see anything, someone yelled, and right after that, the MC's voice rang out. The dust is starting to settle. The one left standing is... Wait a second, hold on. It is... The winner is Cissuna Cromgel, the announcer started shouting as if he was going to break the mic. At that moment, Cissuna thought to himself with confidence, I've won the first match. Meanwhile, upon seeing Cisuna's victory, Layla was overjoyed for him. He did it! Back with the students from the Control Magic Department, they were staring with wide eyes and open mouths at Cisuna's victory. Are you kidding me? The Close Quarters Combat Department won. The last time they won? How many years ago was that? No, but just then. A student with glasses thought of something and explained, Wait a minute. Does that mean if you keep creating golems continuously, you can't maintain them for long? And it seemed everyone agreed with his explanation. What the heck? So Noel's plan backfired on him. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't have won. So the Close Quarters Combat Department just got lucky. It seems this group was consoling themselves with the idea that Noel couldn't maintain too many golems, so the entire stone army collapsed on its own. And that's why Cissuna was able to seize the opportunity and win. And while many were still stunned by Cisuna's victory, the portly head of the ranged magic department clicked his tongue in annoyance and said, There's no way the plan just backfired, damn it! Cissuna Cromgel. At that moment, the dead-faced man next to him spoke with interest. You've caught my attention. You little brat from the Close Quarters Combat Department. If that's the case, I'll have to prepare a few countermeasures. Returning to the tournament arena after Cisuna's first battle ended, the organizers quickly began the second match. The thrilling competition continues. Match 2. Back to Cissuna. After finishing his match, he went up to the stands to watch the next one. Seeing him, Layla smiled brightly and said, You did great, Cissuna. Are you going to watch the matches? Yeah, I might be able to gather some useful information, Cissuna said as he sat down next to her. Then, he focused on the battle below. The two people currently fighting were from the Summoning Magic and Formation Magic departments. Meanwhile, the MC's voice continued to ring out, commentating for the audience. As of now, Carol, the representative from the Summoning Department, has the upper hand, while the representative from the Formation Department is trying to close the distance under the crowd's gaze. Carol was riding a giant wolf, continuously commanding it to create shards of ice to attack the representative from the Formation Magic Department. Meanwhile, the guy from the Formation Department was constantly creating magic formations, using them as footholds to keep moving closer to Carol. Back to Cissuna while he was observing their match. He's learning a thing or two. Even though the representative from the Formation Magic Department is being overwhelmed, his movements are pretty impressive. I bet I could do that too. As he was thinking about close combat, Layla, who was beside him, also exclaimed, The moves from the other magic disciplines look so cool, but I want to get stronger with close combat magic. Hearing this, Cissuna was surprised and asked, But now that I think about it, why did you choose close combat magic? After all, there are other magic disciplines, right? After hearing him, Layla smiled and explained, Well, it's like this. A long time ago, I was saved by a close combat mage. I was playing with my little brother in the forest when we were attacked by a brown bear. At that moment, I thought all hope was lost. But then a close combat mage suddenly rushed in and saved us. With just one punch, he easily sent that bear flying. After that, becoming a close combat mage became my dream. I want to help the people around me and become even stronger. As she said this, she started to feel a little embarrassed. She said shyly, It's so childish, isn't it? That's the only reason? In response to Layla's words, Cissuna immediately encouraged her, Not at all. I don't think it's childish in the slightest. As long as you have a goal set in your heart, you'll definitely get stronger. Really, hey, Layla said with a bright smile. But just then, his friend Leo's voice rang out. Hey, it's Cissuna, long time no see. Hearing the familiar voice, Cissuna turned around and thought, after me, he's the second strongest in the long-range department. Turning to Leo, he said, I saw your first match. Even using close combat magic, you're really strong. After saying that, he noticed Layla sitting next to Cissuna and said with a suggestive tone, Is that girl over there, with you? Like this, Leo said, holding up his pinky finger in front of his face. This made Layla blush beet red. You've got it all wrong, I'm just Cisuna's friend. I'll let you two talk in private for a bit. After saying that, she left, looking a little annoyed. Meanwhile, our boy Cissuna had no idea what she was getting upset about. What's up with her all of a sudden, he wondered. Putting Layla's matter aside, Cissuna turned back to talk to Leo. By the way, I'm surprised you're not the representative for the long-range department. If it were you, you could have beaten Octa. As for Leo, his expression changed when he heard that. This is going to sound like I'm making excuses, but you should be careful of his dirty tricks. Look, Cissuna. I was tricked by Octa and lost the representative position to him. I see, Cissuna said calmly, thinking to himself, so he's the type of person who will use any means necessary to win. I can't let my guard down. Cut to that dead-faced guy, Octa. It seems he was already starting to hatch some kind of scheme. The crafty guy opened a chest full of herbs and let out a very sinister laugh. Not long after the other matches had concluded, it was Cisuna's turn to fight again. Next up is the first match of the second round, the long-range department versus the close combat department. The chosen stage is the Burning Hell. Just one fall and you're done for. After seeing the stage, Lionel and Drago muttered, on a stage like this, it'll be really hard to get close to the opponent. It's another stage that gives the enemy an advantage. And of course this was no coincidence. The sudden appearance of a stage so disadvantageous to Cissuna was all the doing of the fathead of the long-range department. Even the cunning Octa had to praise his methods. As expected of the head professor of the long-range department, pulling off a cheat like this is a piece of cake for you, sir. Hearing this, the fat man said angrily, I have to teach that brat a good lesson. I'll make him regret choosing the close combat department. Back with Cissuna, he and Layla were in the waiting room, and just as Layla was about to touch a vase on the table, Cissuna stopped her, saying, Layla, don't touch that vase. It's a magic tool. The moment you touch it, it'll activate. It will definitely drain all of your mana. Hearing that, Layla quickly dodged to the side, and as her eyes followed, the vase is emitting a purple energy that looks rather unsafe. She is startled and says to Cissuna, Why would you leave something like this here? It's a trap meant for me. This is the 7th time now, Cissuna said calmly, but his words only made Layla more worried. 7 times, are you all right? Hearing that, Cissuna turned and said, I've avoided touching them, so there's no problem. After speaking, he realized who the mastermind of this incident is. The culprit is definitely that bastard. He's so cunning there's not a single trace of him. And just as Cissuna was thinking this, a sudden knock came from outside. When Cissuna opened the door, 3 children were standing there holding a bouquet of flowers, smiling as they spoke to him. Sir, this is for you. Hearing this, Layla smiled and said, What's this all about, kids? Someone over there told us to give this to you, the gray-haired child said, pointing down one side of the hallway. But when Cissuna looked, there was no one there. Seeing this, Layla grew curious and said, Is it a fan of yours, Cissuna? Though that person could have just given you the flowers themselves. He said he was too shy, the gray-haired boy said hesitantly. At the same time, the blonde girl in this group coughed weakly. She couldn't even hold on to the bouquet anymore. I feel a little dizzy, the little girl said faintly, and as Cissuna looked on the little girl's neck, a purple bruise had appeared. The moment he saw this mark, his face turned grim. Before I regressed, I saw spots like this on the battlefield a few times. Thinking this, he quickly kicked the bouquet away. At that moment, the boy in the group of 3 also began to feel unwell. Layla, still not understanding what was happening, asked, What is it? Cissuna then explained with a serious tone. It's a type of poisonous grass called venom. But before he could finish, all 3 children collapsed to the ground. This sight made Cissuna start to lose his mind, involving children too. So you're willing to go this far, you bastard. If we don't treat them quickly, the consequences will be irreversible. But finding a healer who can deal with this type of poison now won't be easy, Cissuna thought, gritting his teeth. Just then Layla, who was beside him, spoke up. The children are in critical condition, aren't they? Yes, they are. Layla, you should get away from here. Just being near it puts you at risk of being poisoned, Cissuna said worriedly, but Layla seemed to have thought of something. A determined look appeared in her eyes as she said, "It's all right. Leave the children to me." As she spoke, she took out the hairpin her mother had given her. Cissuna recognized her intention. That's the hairpin from that time, a magic tool used to store mana. Returning to the present, she said, "The healing magic my mother cast on this tool for me." At the same time, Layla activated the magic that was imbued in the tool. Immediately after, a beam of light began to radiate from where Layla was enveloping all three children. The dark bruises on the kids' bodies slowly began to fade. Seeing this, Cissuna felt a bit less worried. The dark spots are disappearing, he thought. Even though Mother gave this to me as a gift, to use in emergencies, this is definitely the right time to use it. Right, Layla said. Hearing her, Cissuna smiled. Thank you so much. After speaking, he quickly enveloped his entire body in mana. He then grabbed the bouquet and ran off to find a place to dispose of it. Leave the poison grass to me, Cissuna said as he left. He also remembered the characteristics of this flower. Venom grass is most potent when it blooms. I have to destroy it before that happens. But if I do it in a crowded place, the poison will spread everywhere. And as Cissuna was thinking this, the flowers began to release their terrible poison. Even though he had covered his body in mana, Cissuna still showed signs of being poisoned. But luckily, very soon after, he reached his secret training area. If I'm going to destroy it, it has to be here. And at that very moment, the bouquet in Cisuna's hand reached full bloom. Plumes of poisonous smoke visible to the naked eye began to rise from the flowers. Seeing this, Cissuna didn't hesitate to throw the poisonous bouquet into the air. He then created a mana sword and slashed the bouquet into countless pieces. And right after that, the divine tree released its holy mana to heal and purify Cissuna. Back at the arena, everyone was sick and tired of waiting for him. Hey, isn't the representative from the close combat department here yet? A black-haired man said, but the blonde guy next to him scoffed. Maybe he just ran away. Even the announcer got tired of waiting and began to speak. Since the time limit has been reached, contestant Cissuna will forfeit and contestant Octa will be declared the winner. But before he could finish his sentence, Cisuna's voice echoed throughout the entire arena. Wait! As his voice rang out, everyone in the stadium. They turned their attention to Cissuna. It seemed that even though he had been purified by the divine tree, there was still some poison left in his body. But right now, Cissuna couldn't care less about some stupid poison. At this moment, his heart was filled with rage as he roared at the man before him, Octa. I'm not giving up. Fight me, Octa. But the Octa on the opposite side, after seeing Cisuna's condition, he started to laugh with an incredibly punchable smile. In your condition, you can barely even stand and you still dare to talk big. That dead-faced bastard continued to provoke him. Looks like you got my little congratulatory gift, huh? Hearing his taunt, Cissuna became even more furious and yelled, What the hell did you do? So many innocent people were harmed by that deadly poison. But Octa was quick on the uptake as soon as he heard Cisuna's question. He immediately played dumb, saying, What poison? I don't know what you're talking about. Cissuna glared at him, seeing him lie so shamelessly. Unconsciously, Cissuna clenched his fists in fury so hard that the veins on the back of his hand stood out, and this only made Octa even more smug. You're so easy to provoke, Cissuna Chrome. You commoners should feel honored to serve us nobles. Hearing this, Cissuna couldn't hold it in any longer and roared, Octa! At this point, the announcer at the side could also see that these two contestants were absolutely itching for a fight. So he immediately announced, In that case, round 2 officially begins. The moment the words were out, Octa instantly created a magic circle in the palm of his hand. This was his Gale magic. Then right after, he unleashed the spell towards Cissuna, forcing him to scramble to dodge it. At that moment, his friend Drago also noticed Cisuna's strange condition. What's wrong with him? His mana feels incomplete. Back with Cissuna, the high-intensity movements were causing his body to tremble with every painful pulse. Thanks to the holy tree's protection, the venom grass poison was purified. But there wasn't enough time to fully detoxify my system, Cissuna thought to himself. But he wasn't given a moment to dwell on it. The bastard across from him unleashed another barrage of spells. Left with no choice, Cissuna had to once again pick up his speed to dodge the attacks. Meanwhile, seeing Cissuna scurrying around like a rat only made Octa more excited. I'm not done yet, he shouted as he continued to fire off spells aimed at Cissuna. Meanwhile, he had to constantly move between the rock formations to evade. "Oh, the representative of the close combat department is completely on the defensive," the announcer's voice boomed, seeing Cissuna only dodging. The portly head of the long-range magic department saw this, and laughed with smug satisfaction. "Heh, it seems our preparations were well worth it. Cissuna Cromgel, you'd better prepare yourself." Back with Cissuna. He glanced up in the stands, thinking, Layla isn't back yet. I hope they're okay. But that small movement was spotted by his wicked opponent. He saw it, and while launching another spell, taunted, "Heh, what are you so worried about?" Cissuna didn't even bother to answer him. It looked as though his physical condition was deteriorating seriously. Cisuna's performance led some of the spectators to look on with contempt. The guy from the close combat department can only run away. They must be completely helpless against long-range fighters. Down in the arena, Octa began to attack Cisuna's resolve. "It's come to this. Why don't you just give up?" he said, launching 2 magic attacks at Cissuna. Cissuna immediately raised his hands to defend. "I'll block it with a mana shield," he thought to himself. But just as the spells were about to hit him, the layer of mana he had gathered in his hands to defend suddenly vanished. As a result, Cissuna took the full direct force of the magic attack, with no magic to defend himself. When the smoke from the explosion cleared, Cisuna's wound-covered body was revealed to everyone, and just as you'd expect, that bastard Octa burst out laughing at the sight. "Ha ha! You're all out of steam." Faced with his triumphant gloating, Cissuna just asked coldly, "Why don't you finish me off? The smartest move would be to avoid close combat and stun me with relentless attacks just like you've been doing. But all you've done is provoke me. What are you scheming? This dead-faced bastard?" Hearing that, he let out a sinister laugh and said, "I never thought I'd be getting a lecture on long-range tactics from you. But your observation skills aren't half bad. I certainly can't afford to underestimate you." Looking around just as he said right at this moment, all 4 sides around Cissuna were lava, and the only place to stand was the rock spire. Cissuna was standing there, but if the person on top used magic and shattered his stone pillar, he would fall into the lava and be toast instantly. Even the blonde-haired guy realized something was wrong and shouted his name. What the hell is that guy planning to do? Back to Octa, he muttered his thoughts for Cissuna to hear. "I followed the rules to avoid unnecessary risks. This was my goal from the very beginning." With that, he began to chant Storm Cannon, and as he spoke, his entire body was enveloped in an incredibly powerful gust of wind. "This will end it all," he declared coldly. But at that very moment, Layla appeared in the stands and shouted, "Cissuna, the children are safe!" She held up her hairpin for Cissuna to see as she spoke. Seeing this, Cissuna smiled and let out a sigh of relief. "Phew, now I don't have to worry about them anymore. I can get back to it." As he said this, Cisuna's body was suddenly enveloped in a blue magical aura, and then the wounds on his body slowly began to heal. This was the first time Octa's expression changed. How did you heal?" he stammered. In response to his question, Cissuna just answered calmly, "What's so surprising? I'm just using physical enhancement. I activated all of my cells. While we were fighting, I was also neutralizing the poison, and you were busy trying to weaken my footwork. You fell right into my trap, you coward!" Cissuna said this as he began to form a sword of mana, while Octa on the other side started to get flustered. "Don't get cocky. What can you possibly do now?" "That's right, go get him, Octa!" the fat guy yelled. Right after that, his storm magic shot straight towards Cissuna, and when faced with this enormous spell, Cissuna was still able to calmly think of a counter-strategy. "I have no footwork. My remaining mana is almost gone. But this is enough to defeat you." Cissuna spoke as he swung the sword in his hand, slashing straight into the magic spell. Then he poured all his strength into his arms and sent the spell flying back towards Octa. This incredible sight made his friend Drago exclaim in astonishment. He repelled it. Back to Octa after seeing his own magic being sent back at him. He let out a roar and gathered magic in his palms. And right before the spell hit him, he managed to unleash his own magic to nullify it. "Did you think I couldn't disable my own magic? Your little tactic is useless. It's all over," this guy said gleefully. But he didn't even get to celebrate for 3 seconds, because Cissuna had already rushed right in front of him. He said coldly, "You too! Did you think I couldn't close this distance?" Octa was now trembling all over, unable to speak. "No, impossible!" And as he finished saying those words, Cissuna landed several slashes on him, causing him to collapse with his eyes rolled back. "If you want forgiveness, go apologize to those kids," Cissuna said coldly. And at that moment, The MC's voice quickly rang out. The winner is Cissuna Chrome. Lionel. Drago, seeing Sissuna's victory, was overjoyed. That's how it's done, Drago said. But just then Drago's eyes widened, because from his point of view the rock spire where Cissuna was standing suddenly began to crack. The audience saw this and cried out in alarm. Wait! Hold on. They're both falling. As they finished speaking, the entire rock spire crumbled, taking both Cissuna and Octa down with it. Back to Cissuna. Even though he was about to fall into the lava stream, he could still think calmly. Octa's unconscious. I can't let him die. Thinking this, he quickly grabbed the guy's leg to pull him up, but unfortunately, he was the one who got pulled down. Damn it, so this is it, Cissuna thought to himself. Then just as they were about to fall into the lava, a voice suddenly called out, Fenrir! And as this voice echoed, a giant wolf suddenly lunged forward and caught them. Seeing this, Cissuna sighed in relief and thought, this is Carol's summon. And that life-saving and timely rescue made the audience cheer endlessly. Afterwards, Cissuna was treated by the medical staff while Octa was put on a stretcher and carried away. Meanwhile, Carol was happily stroking her summoned beast and saying, there, you're such a good boy. Then she looked at Cissuna and said, at least one of you is still conscious. It seems you would have been fine without my help, wouldn't you? Hearing her, Cissuna on the other side smiled and said, not at all, you really saved me. After saying that, he stared at the beautiful girl. He thought, Carol from the summoning department, she's a formidable opponent in this championship. She has both talent and style. If Karen keeps winning, I'll have to prepare myself for a fierce battle. Back in the stands, the students from the other divisions were starting to see the close combat division in a new light. The representative from the close combat division won again. This can't be just luck, can it? At this rate, it's getting harder and harder to predict. And just as everyone was starting to acknowledge the strength of the close combat division, that Fatso, the head of the long-range magic division, started fuming. Damn it. What a bunch of useless fools. I won't forget this, Cissuna Cromgel, he said, flipping Cissuna the bird even though he couldn't see it. Meanwhile, with Cissuna, right after getting bandaged up, he ran over to Layla's group. You did great, Cissuna, Layla said. I heard from Layla. You really went through a lot, Drago said. Hearing them, Cissuna asked, what about the kids? They're sleeping in the infirmary now. The doctor said they'll be fine, Layla said with a bright smile. That's a relief. Cissuna smiled upon hearing the news, but just then suddenly, Cissuna felt something. His face darkened and he immediately spun around to look. This made Layla, who was beside him, ask in confusion, is something wrong? It's nothing, Cissuna said hastily, but he was actually breaking out in a cold sweat. What was that just now? It was so cold. That dark magic filled with killing intent. What's going on at this tournament? Time passed quickly. Cissuna was now training alone, but it seemed he still wasn't satisfied with his current strength. The final match is next week. And that mysterious person? I need new power to be able to fight them. The power I've been searching for. And just as he arrived here, the voice of the muscular teacher Lionel rang out from behind. Cissuna, why did you call me here? Hearing his voice, Cissuna calmly turned around and said, I want to ask for your guidance again, Professor. No, I should call you Comet Punch Lionel. Hearing this, Lionel looked a little surprised, then chuckled and said, that name, it brings back memories. Where did you hear that from anyway? Hearing him admit it, Cissuna grew so excited he clenched his fists and thought, so it really was you, Professor Comet Punch. That's the nickname I heard the Magic Corps mention before I regressed. Rumor had it that he was a close combat mage who could defeat ferocious dragons with a single blow. When I joined, he had already been discharged, so I never had the chance to fight alongside him. I had my suspicions since I met him, but to think it was actually true. Thinking this, Cissuna bowed his head and said, please teach me your magic. Hearing him, Lionel scratched his head and said, it's been a long time since anyone called me Comet Punch. Not at all. Among all the close combat users I've ever met, you are the strongest. Professor, Cissuna said calmly. Lionel in turn took a deep breath and asked, why do you seek that power? You're already strong enough. After listening, Cissuna replied, it's still not enough. I don't want to lose to anyone, even if my opponent is a god. In response to his words, Lionel burst out laughing. Ha ha, you're an interesting one, Cissuna. All right then. Normally, I wouldn't teach this technique to students who are still growing, but I'll make an exception. After speaking, he began to gather mana into his fist and started explaining, this magic is what earned me the name Comet Punch. This move consumes a lot of mana, so I can't use it many times. Just once. Watch closely. With that, he threw a powerful punch forward, creating a terrifying surge of energy that destroyed everything in its path. Rocks and dirt flew everywhere, forcing Cissuna to quickly raise his arm to shield himself as he waited for the explosion to end. What appeared before Cisuna's eyes was a trench gouged out of the earth. "What is this power?" Cissuna said in amazement. Yes." At that moment, Lionel continued to explain, "This technique requires me to continuously gather mana for a while before releasing it, so it's not suitable for use. In one-on-one matches like in the championship tournament. Are you okay with that?" "Yes, I trust you, Professor Lionel," Cissuna said hurriedly, hearing him say that Lionel got right down to business. "All right, then. Then let's start training right away. Follow me, Cissuna." The scene changes to Karen, who is happily drinking tea and chatting with someone. "First off, congratulations on making it to the finals," someone said to Karen. Hearing this, Karen smiled brightly and said, Hey, thanks a lot." Then the mysterious person asked, "Your next opponent is that guy from the close combat division. How confident are you?" After hearing the question, Karen just kept smiling and said, "Winning or losing all comes down to luck, I guess. I'll just do my best to have a good match. Would you like another drink?" "No thanks," the other person said. And not long after that, as Karen was carrying the tray of drinks away, the mysterious person slowly pulled some kind of card out of their pocket. They then aimed it at the back of Karen's neck, and in that very instant, suddenly on the back of her neck, a strange symbol appeared. Karen fainted immediately. Seeing her fall, the mysterious person thought coldly, "If she wins, it wins too." The situation had changed. Time passed quickly. Meanwhile, Cissuna was still practicing the technique Lionel had taught him using just a single punch, and yet he was able to create a massive explosion in the forest. "Professor, what do you think?" Cissuna asked. Lionel's eyes went wide, stunned by Cisuna's ability to learn. "Unbelievable! It hasn't even been a week and he's already memorized everything. It took me 2 years to learn this," Lionel thought to himself. Then he didn't hold back his praise. "Excellent, I taught you the comet punch?" "Ah, no, that's right, it's cannon fire." Hearing this, Cissuna smiled confidently, and just like that, it was time for the final match. The 781st Elmeris Magic Academy Friendship Tournament Finals have finally begun, the crowd favorite with her overwhelming power. Karen from the Summoning Division will face off against the new rising star Cissuna of the Close Combat Division. The arena for the final match is the Goddess's Ruins. To prevent any damage from this fierce battle, a super powerful barrier will be set up by master mages. At that moment, students from other divisions in the stands were buzzing. "Hey, who do you guys think will win?" A chubby kid sitting nearby heard this and said confidently, "It's gotta be the undefeated Summoning Division, of course." But a girl with purple hair didn't think so. "The Close Combat Division is really strong, you know. I've already become a fan of his." This kind of chatter echoed throughout the stands. Even the 3 children from before were there today to cheer for Cissuna. "Go, brother Cissuna! Back over with Layla!" After seeing the arena, she said happily. "Finally a match where he isn't at a disadvantage." "Let's hope so," Lionel said calmly. And while the 2 of them were still talking, Cissuna down at the arena's edge glanced over at the headmaster and thought, "If I win this, you have to keep your promise and teach me a second magic headmaster." Just then, on the opposite side, Karen spoke up. "You seem to be in high spirits. Let's both give it our all." As she spoke, she summoned her wolf, and right after that, the announcer, seeing they were both ready, declared, "The final match we've all been waiting for officially begins." And right after the announcer's words, Karen shouted, "Come forth, Fenrir!" At her command, the mini-wolf suddenly transformed into a giant wolf. It then glared over at Cissuna with a look full of menace, and right after that, it aimed straight for Cissuna and unleashed an ice breath attack. Luckily, Cissuna realized it in time and leaped to the side to dodge, but even so, he could still feel that this attack was pretty nasty. A freezing attack that's just like a blizzard, he thought to himself. On the other side, Karen, seeing Cissuna dodge so quickly, it didn't hold back her praise. "As expected, your footwork is incredible, but I won't give you a chance to rest." As she spoke, she had Fenrir create 4 beams of light that shot straight at Cissuna. Seeing this, Cissuna immediately used enhancement magic on himself to increase his movement speed. Then, like an eel, he began to weave and slip between the attacks. Next, Cissuna quickly slashed through a blast of frost and charged straight for Karen. And right after that, he quickly used the sword in his hand to slash one of Fenrir's eyes blind. Seeing this from the stands, Layla shouted with joy, "He did it!" But she had barely had a moment to celebrate when Lionel beside her reminded her, "No, summoned spirit beasts accumulate a lot of mana. A wound like that will heal in an instant." And just as he said at that very moment, Karen began using her magic to heal Fenrir. There. It's okay, Fenrir, you're so strong," she said while directing Fenrir to charge forward. This forced Cissuna to hastily fall back to maintain his distance. "You're doing great. In that case..." Karen then used some kind of magic, causing a cold mist to appear all over the arena. Before long, the entire surface of the fighting stage was completely frozen. This, of course, severely restricted Sissuna's movement. "The arena floor. It's frozen, I see now. The frozen mana is being contained by the barrier," Cissuna thought to himself upon seeing this. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the arena, a mysterious figure was also observing their battle and muttered, "On a frozen stage, Fenrir's attack power will be even stronger. What are you going to do?" Back to Cissuna. Right now, he was also trying to figure out a counter. "Besides attack range, a prolonged fight will definitely be a disadvantage for me. In that case, I'll settle this with a cannon shot." With that thought, Cissuna began to charge forward, closing in on Fenrir while trying to avoid the wolf's icy breath. However, in everyone's eyes, it didn't seem to be going very smoothly for Cissuna, because every time he tried to get close, he was forced back by Fenrir's icy breath. Seeing this, students from other departments began to gossip, "The representative from the close combat department is on the defensive. You really can't beat someone from the summoning department." Even the kids were getting worried for Cissuna now, but only Lionel noticed something and was stunned. This made Layla, who was beside him, a little curious, so she asked, "Professor, what is it?" "Ah, it's nothing," Lionel said with a smile. And then he turned to look at Cissuna again and thought, to use cannon shot he needs time to cast it. This move can't be used in a one-on-one fight. But with his superior mana control, it's very possible he'll use cannon shot while fighting. That's no easy feat. Back to the battle. At this moment, Karen also realized that Cissuna had some kind of plan. What is he plotting? "I won't give him the chance," Karen thought to herself, then shouted, "Come forth, Garuda." And right after she spoke, Karan immediately used summoning magic and called forth an eagle spirit beast. This made Drago, who was watching, cry out in astonishment. She summoned a second one. Even a teacher like Lionel broke into a cold sweat at Karen's ability. Summoning consecutively, that kid is truly talented. And because Karen had summoned another beast, Sissuna's situation became even more difficult. Immediately, both beasts attacked at the same time. Cissuna couldn't dodge them in time. Following that, a large explosion erupted from the two beasts' attack. Even the ice surface cracked into countless pieces. Seeing this, Layla in the stands above shouted worriedly, "Cissuna," down below as the dust slowly settled. Everyone could see Sissuna's figure. It seemed that somehow he had blocked the attacks of both summoned beasts. He even gave each one an elbow and a punch, sending them both flying. "You truly are a genius, mage." "That's why I guessed you were still holding on to your ace," Cissuna said calmly. This caused Karen's face to turn pale. And from her perspective, Cissuna was now gathering mana into his fist, muttering, "Now it's my turn." But just then, the mysterious person observing from afar also spoke, "Let everything end here." After speaking, he waved his hand to use some kind of magic. And right after his gesture, an anomaly occurred. The mark on the back of Karen's neck suddenly erupted with some kind of power. This powerful and uncontrolled foreign energy caused her to scream in pain. Over here, Cissuna saw her suddenly cry out so miserably. He immediately stopped his cannon shot and worriedly asked, "Karen, are you okay?" And then he sensed the energy emitting from Karen and broke into a sweat. "This magic, could it be him?" According to Sissuna's senses, this energy wave belonged to a very familiar enemy. This evil magic power, it feels exactly the same as the magic that radiates from the evil god. What the hell is going on? Cissuna gritted his teeth, thinking. At that moment on the opposite side, Karen's face suddenly contorted in pain. And right after that, she raised her hand to the sky and performed summoning magic, just like that. 4 more summoned beasts were called forth by Karen. It seems her body was being forcibly controlled by that mysterious person. Meanwhile, the audience watching didn't understand what was happening. Seeing her summon so many, they started shouting and cheering loudly. "Wow! How many summons has she called out?" But Lionel was starting to get a headache from this situation. This magic power clearly isn't coming from Karen. Stop this match immediately and take down the magic shield. What are you waiting for? What is that shield mage even doing? He shouted in anger, but unfortunately this mysterious person had already calculated everything without missing a detail. Only the one who created the shield can dispel it. I'm sure they're looking for you right now. Isn't that right, Mr. Shield Mage? He said, turning to a man with a dazed expression who seemed to have temporarily lost consciousness. And it seems control of this shield has also been seized by this mysterious person. Back with Cissuna, he was struggling against the attacks from the summoned creatures, the ones Karen had just summoned. Right now he was hastily dodging a powerful attack from this multi-headed giant. Just a single slam from it was enough to shatter the ice floor into countless pieces. And that's not all. Cissuna also had to constantly watch out for attacks from the eagle spirit beast above, or the two-headed wolf that was always waiting for an opening to take a bite out of him. One of the best solutions was to deal with the one controlling Karen, the master of this magic. They must be somewhere around here. I have to follow the flow of magic. Cissuna gritted his teeth as he thought, turning his head to search his surroundings, but one could only say that the mysterious person had read him like a book. He had already figured out Cisuna's intentions. "But you still have time to look around," he said as he began using his magic to command the eagle spirit beast to attack Cissuna. As a result, he was grabbed by its two talons and slammed straight into a pillar behind him. The impact was so strong that the pillar shattered instantly. Bloody marks appeared where the talons had dug in, and finally Cissuna was thrown aside by the force of the blow. Layla, in the stands, turned pale with worry seeing him beaten so badly. Back to Cissuna, truth be told, he was in a pretty miserable state. It was unclear how much longer he could hold on. The mysterious person seeing Cissuna like this just laughed smugly. Locating the source of this mana? While fighting off several summoned beasts at the same time, someone like you can't do it. With just those two arms, you'll be dead sooner or later. And I'm not the only one who's realized this. Professor Lionel could also see that the situation was dire. Cissuna doesn't have time to use his ultimate attack. Besides, Karan has also reached her limit. If no one stops that mana, she won't be able to control it and will die. Following his gaze, Karen was trembling violently in pain. But then she managed to force out some words to Cissuna in front of her. "Run, Cissuna." He who was currently kicking the two-headed dog twice in the face heard this and thought, "Just as I thought, someone's controlling her." And while he was thinking, tears streamed down Carol's beautiful face. She began to look at Cissuna with pleading eyes, then said, "Before they take your life, please, you have to run, Cissuna." As she said this, it seemed the mysterious person also controlled her body, ordering all the summoned creatures to attack at once. Seeing this, Cissuna wasn't afraid. In fact, he even used enhancement magic to proactively charge forward, dodging the attacks of the first two summons, the dog and the giant. Next, he dashed straight towards the easiest target, the small rabbit, and landed a solid punch on it. The powerful blow sent its entire body sinking into the ground. But taking this opportunity, the bull next to it charged at him like a tank. Cissuna, seeing this, knew he had no time to dodge, so he braced himself in the sturdiest stance possible. He enveloped his entire body in mana, and as soon as the bull reached him, he grabbed its horns tightly with both hands. Then Cissuna gritted his teeth and channeled all his strength into his arms, lifting the bull into the air. At that same moment, the remaining summons also charged at him. Seeing this, Cissuna let out a loud yell and threw the bull straight at the three beasts rushing towards him. And while he was fighting for his life, the headmaster was just watching with concern, not doing a damn thing. Luckily, Cissuna still had the reliable Professor Lionel. Reliable because at this moment he was running around frantically searching for the shield mage. As he ran, he thought, "By now." Cissuna must have used up half of his mana. "This situation is absolutely terrible. I have to find that shield mage as soon as possible." "Don't you dare die, Cissuna!" Back down below after temporarily repelling the attack from the summoned beasts. Cissuna finally had a moment to catch his breath. But before Cissuna could even take a few breaths, the rabbit he thought he had defeated suddenly appeared behind him. And before Cissuna could react, it pierced his thigh with the sharp horn on its forehead. Seeing this, Layla's face went completely pale. "His leg," Layla said worriedly. By now, even students from other departments realized something was very wrong. "Oh, don't you think he's going a bit too far?" they said with concern. But the mysterious person, upon seeing this, just laughed with excitement. "Then you won't be able to use your magic anymore. Take his life, my pets." After saying that, he waved his hand, commanding all his summoned beasts to charge forward and attack. Cissúna's situation was now extremely dire. He was surrounded on all sides by the summoned beasts, and one of Cissúna's legs had been disabled. Because one leg was temporarily unusable, Cissuna couldn't escape Fenrir's attack. It immediately chomped down on Cissúna's left arm, causing large streams of blood to spurt out from his arm. Even after it bit down, it clenched its jaw even harder, as if it wanted to completely crush his arm. This excruciating pain made Cissuna scream out in agony. In his daze, he recalled some of his teacher Lionel's words. "Do you all know what the most important thing for you to do in a battle is as battle mages?" Hearing this, Drago immediately said it was to take down the enemy with a single powerful blow. Cissuna, however, had a different idea and said to keep the damage you receive to a minimum, while closing the distance with the enemy as much as possible, right? That's also correct. But there's something else that's even more important. It's to land a solid punch on your opponent with the mindset of, I can accomplish anything with this punch. And that's why you all will have to participate in endurance training. Back in the present, it seemed that thanks to those endurance exercises, Cissuna had finally regained his composure, and he gradually endured the pain. I finally did it, Cissuna mumbled, and at the same time, his right fist had already gathered a full charge of mana. This was the moment for him to unleash his cannon shot while the wolf was locked onto his arm. This made the mysterious person's eyes widen in surprise. No way. He shouldn't be able to use that arm anymore. Don't tell me he did that on purpose, just to hide the fact that he was gathering mana this whole time. Back to Cissuna, who was thinking to himself, these summoned beasts have lost control. If I show them a small opening like this, I can gather them all in one place and finish them in a single blow. I'll use all the mana I have left for this one punch and take all of you down. And then, under everyone's worried gazes, Cissuna unleashed her barrage attack directly at the wolf, instantly obliterating it, which also sent Karen flying. But that wasn't all. The beam of energy from this attack pierced through Fenrir's body and destroyed everything in its path, including the summoned beasts behind it. After that, Cissuna quickly rushed over and caught Karen just before her body hit the ground. Seeing that she was okay, Cissuna let out a sigh of relief. Karen's condition had returned to normal. Meanwhile, the students watching from above, unaware that anything unusual had happened, only saw that the battle was over. They began to speak up. Whoa, for real? So that means Karan lost, right? The winner is Cissuna Cromgel. This victory has been nearly a century in the making. The champion of the Elmerus Magic Academy's friendly tournament is the Close Combat Department. The announcer's excited voice rang out while other students began to feel happy for him. What was that? I've never seen that skill before. That attack was insane. Students from other departments were stunned as they witnessed his ultimate barrage technique. Did Cissuna really win? Layla said, her voice filled with emotion. Drago also nodded, saying, that's how it's done. Amazing. But the happiest person of all was none other than the blonde-haired young man Cissuna had previously dealt with. Awesome, I knew you could do it, Cissuna. No way. How much money did we win? His amazed friends exclaimed. Back to the mysterious person, his plan had failed. So he planned to turn and eliminate the mage who created the barrier. That kid is actually still alive. As expected, I shouldn't have underestimated him. You're useless now. As he said this, the man began to use magic. However, right after that, as if realizing something, the mysterious man retracted his magic. Have they already located the barrier mage? With that thought, this man also secretly destroyed the mark he had placed on the mage earlier. The person rushing toward them was none other than the muscular teacher Lionel. He's here. Just then, he discovered the unconscious mage nearby and hurried over to check his pulse. At the same time, because the mysterious man had withdrawn his controlling power, the barrier was also deactivated, and it was only at this moment that the old headmaster finally came down. It seems she was seriously injured after her summoned beast was repeatedly defeated, he said, turning to look at Karen. She was unconscious beside him, and Cissuna stated his thoughts bluntly. It seems like someone was controlling her. Indeed. This is likely the effect of a magical item. Leave the rest to the academy. As he spoke, he began to use his magic to heal the girl. And of course, he didn't forget his prior promise to Cissuna. Cissuna Cromgel, you have proven your strength. I will keep my promise. Come to my office tomorrow. After speaking, the headmaster left. Scene changed to the infirmary. After using healing magic for a temporary recovery, the medical staff gave some instructions. Your external injuries are temporarily stable, but your internal injuries haven't fully healed. You'll need to rest for a while. Yes, ma'am. Cissuna replied with a nod. But at that same moment, a knock came from outside the door. Then, Karen's group and the kids all rushed in. "Cissuna, are you okay?" Seeing them, the champ waved his hand. "Look, I'm fine." "That's a relief, and once again, congratulations on your victory," Layla said with a smile. "Congratulations. You're the pride of our close combat magic department." "You were so cool, Cissuna," the kids shouted. After a round of congratulations, everyone quickly left to let Cissuna get some rest. And now was the time for Professor Lionel to speak with him privately. "That barrier mage is still alive. Someone knocked him unconscious. As for Karen, she also needs to recover, but she's stable now. When she wakes up, she will certainly be questioned. But in this incident, it seems you were the real target. What do you think?" he said, pointing directly at Cissuna, whose face grew pensive as if he was thinking of something. Scene changed to that evening in front of Karen's room. The mysterious person appeared there again. However, as soon as he touched the door, he was blocked by a barrier. "A barrier to prevent intruders, huh? But it's useless." After saying that, he squeezed his hand into a fist, causing the barrier magic to shatter into pieces. His goal this time was none other than to eliminate Karen. "Now I must eliminate her first, and then... Cissuna, I must erase all traces connected to me." As he thought this, he began to use some kind of dark magic to send Karen to the afterlife. However, just before the dark magic orb could touch her, Cisuna's figure dashed in and used his mana sword to slice through the magic in an instant. "I know you were planning to silence someone, but I never wanted to see you like this, Leo," Cissuna said coldly, looking at his best friend's face. And in response to his friend's accusation, Leo just smiled as if nothing was wrong. "Ha ha! So I've been found out, huh? And here I thought I didn't leave any traces." Hearing his words, Cissuna nodded in agreement. "It's true there were no traces, but after what I just witnessed, I'm sure of it." It seems Cissuna wasn't entirely sure Leo was the mysterious figure, but he guessed that Karen would definitely be his next target for elimination, so he laid in wait here. And so with just a simple line of reasoning, Cissuna was able to uncover Leo's identity, causing the guy's face to freeze. After a few seconds of silence, he pointed to the door and suggested, "Let's go outside and talk for a bit, shall we? This place reeks of medicine." And just like that, the two of them started walking outside as naturally as two friends. But as they moved, waves of pain washed over Cissuna. It was because his wounds hadn't fully healed yet. Walking ahead, Leo seemed to have reached a secluded spot and spoke up. "You look terrifying, Cissuna. So how long have you known I was the culprit?" In response to his question, Cissuna didn't hide anything. "After the blessing ceremony, you suddenly stopped showing up as much. For someone with your personality, that was pretty suspicious. And then there was the accident that made you lose your position as the representative for the long-range magic division. No matter what tricks Octa used, there's no way you would have lost to him." Cissuna calmly stated his deductions, giving Leo a bit of a headache, surprised that it was all so simple. "Oh, man, I can't believe you pieced it all together like that. And now my suspicions are confirmed. Just like in the final match of the exchange, his mana was also transferred into your attacks," Cissuna continued. And right after he finished saying this, Leo's body changed. "Hey, Cissuna, who are you talking about? Do you know of that great being?" As he spoke this, Leo's aura began to change. Finally, his entire body was enveloped in an incredibly evil energy, along with strange stripes on his body. And the moment he saw this energy, our protagonist raised his guard to the maximum. The transformation of this energy means Leo is definitely a demon's lackey. If that's the case, then I have to stop him right now. As he thought this, he began to form a mana sword in his hand while the Leo in front of him was done playing friends. "I can no longer allow you to do as you please, even though I wanted to play with you a little longer. Farewell," he declared coldly. Cissuna charged forward to attack and seize the advantage. However, just as Cissuna swung his sword aiming for Leo, at the very moment his mana sword was about to strike the evil god's hound, it suddenly dissolved like soap bubbles. This feeling, it's exactly like that time. Cissuna thought anxiously, seeing his magic nullified just as it was when he fought the evil god in his past life. And like a typical villain, this Leo began to explain his own attributes. "That great being bestowed upon me the skill to nullify an opponent's mana upon making contact with any of their attacks. So no matter what magic you use, you can't touch me. Don't even try." "I don't believe you." Cissuna began to swing his sword and attack once more. And the result was exactly the same as before. The sword once again disintegrated into tiny fragments, but this was merely a feint from Cissuna. Not yet. Mana nullification only works when it makes contact with my attack. but if I strike from a blind spot, it should work. With that thought, our hero used his superhuman speed to circle behind Leo and attack from the rear, thinking that as long as Leo's hand couldn't touch the attack, he would land a hit. But unfortunately, his thinking was a bit naive, because this time, even without Leo touching it, Cissúna's sword still disintegrated before it could pierce him, as if a special field surrounded this Leo guy, and any magical attack that hit this shield would be destroyed by it. It's useless. My ability to detect mana and decide how to block it is faster than you think, Leo said coldly. Then the hound simply had to wave a hand, and a small fireball materialized, striking Cissuna directly and sending him flying. To be honest, I wanted to fight you when you were fully recovered. You're truly skilled. Normally, close-quarters magic can't reach this level. If you had chosen long-range magic, we could have played with each other for a little while longer. But that doesn't matter anymore. After all, you're going to die here anyway. As he finished speaking, Leo threw a lightning spear that pierced Cissúna's thigh, causing him to collapse in agony. He wasn't aiming to kill him, Cissuna thought to himself, and then he spoke up to buy some time. Why are you doing this? Did you side with the demons? Let's see. I'm just sick and tired of this world. In a way, it's like wanting to destroy a sandcastle someone else built, right? Honestly, this world just needs to be rebuilt from scratch. Hearing this psycho reveal his intentions made Cissuna furious. Just because you hate everything, you sold your soul to the demons. Stop talking nonsense, Leo. Are you even really Leo? He shouted, but the Leo on the other side seemed a little annoyed and prepared to unleash a finishing spell. At the same time, our protagonist began to gather mana into his fist. I still can't use this mana sword. I have to use it at the closest possible range for a direct slash. I need to remember the feeling of that attack. I still have a chance, he told himself. However, before Cissuna could finish his preparations, Leo in front of him began his attack. You're too slow. As he spoke, he unleashed his dark magic, aiming straight for Cissuna, and at that moment, our protagonist had nowhere left to run. His casting speed is too fast. Is this the power of an evil god? Cissuna thought to himself. And in that most critical moment, the headmaster's voice rang out, Stop! Along with his voice, a magic spell appeared in front of Cissuna, helping him block Leo's attack. White flame magic, both of them thought to themselves. Then another pillar of fire shot towards Leo on the side, but he instantly nullified it. As for the old headmaster and his dragon, they had made a badass appearance on the roof, not far away. Sorry I'm late, he said to Cissuna. Not at all, sir. You were just in time to save me, Cissuna replied, shaking his head. Then the headmaster looked directly at Leo and asked, Are you the one who caused the incident during the competition? In response to his question, Leo admitted it bluntly. So you figured it out, huh? And I sensed the residual mana, so I followed the trail, he explained. Ha, as expected of the head of this magic academy. Leo laughed in praise. I didn't want to suspect that one of my own students had done such things. I'll have to place you under arrest. Leo Furcrest! The headmaster declared, simultaneously waving his hand to command his dragon, which began to spew fire directly at Leo. Cissuna, who was standing nearby, could also feel the terrifying power of this attack. However, like so many other magic attacks, it was neutralized the moment it got near Leo. So this is the legendary magical beast, the strongest in the rumors, the White Dragon. If that person hadn't given me a portion of their magic power, I would have been in trouble, Leo said with awe. Meanwhile, the headmaster's face grew serious. Magic nullification? So it's real. Beside him, Cissuna heard this and turned to ask, Sir, you know about that magic? Yes. It was recorded in my family's archives, the Silver Rocks. When the nameless dark power awakens, the world will be plunged into disaster and magic nullification. It is one of those powers. Back to Leo, seeing that the headmaster's magic had no effect on him, he was no longer worried. Magic has no effect on me. And the same goes for you, Danny Silverrock. As he spoke, the villain began to gather a type of magic that looked anything but weak. It was a composite magic combining 3 elements. At the same time, a strange symbol appeared in both of Headmaster Duncan's eyes. Then, before Leo could use his magic, he spoke. Take 2 steps to your right, Cissuna. The headmaster's eyes, he wondered to himself. But by this time, Leo had already launched his attack. So he had no choice but to follow his instructions and dodge to the right. And what do you know? They both dodged all of Leo's energy arrows with incredible ease. He dodged it. It should have been a direct hit, he thought to himself. And Headmaster Duncan, seemingly reading his mind, teased, surprised. Did you think only your magic would have any effect? It seems you have some interesting magic of your own, huh? But what about this? As he spoke, Leo's entire body erupted with a terrifying power, and Cissuna immediately recognized it. This is the power of an evil god. I won't let you leave here alive, he said with a cold expression on his face. It seems this fight won't be easy. Danny spoke, and the weakling Cissuna caught in the middle of this battle was freaking out. This is bad. If they both really fight at full power, this place will be destroyed. Cissuna, Headmaster Duncan said as he turned to look at him. And without needing any more words, Cissuna understood his intention. I understand. Hearing him say that, Sarati portite pai. The headmaster felt reassured and began to use his magic. Oh, pure phantom butterflies, lend me your wings. After speaking Danny along with his dragon, he leaped high into the air and performed a windmill attack while Leo down below immediately figured out the old man's intention. He wants to minimize the damage to the academy, huh? Fine by me. After all, protecting that academy is your duty. As he spoke, Leo gathered magical energy to cast a spell, and just like that, their attacks collided. It seemed like this Leo's firepower was a step above, but then it pierced through the white dragon's flames and headed straight for the dragon itself, creating a massive explosion in midair. You should just give up and hand me the victory. Right, Headmaster, Leo said. However, the old headmaster had his own plan. Let's see, this old man is about to retire. And then, as Leo watched, the smoke and dust from the explosion began to clear. Cisuna's figure appeared up above, surprising, attacking while hiding behind that dragon's body. But a surprise like that is nothing. After saying that, the guy created a shield to protect himself. Meanwhile, Cissuna lectured Leo, you rely too much on that evil power. Choosing close combat magic was definitely the right call, Cissuna thought to himself, then shouted, I'll prove it with this one attack. Responding to him, Leo seemed a bit interested to see what Cissuna would do. Don't underestimate my power now that I've been granted a portion of their magic, he said with a laugh, but immediately after, that smile vanished as his shield was shattered by Cisuna's fist. And just like that, this golden-haired puppy was sent crashing to the ground by Cisuna's punch. Nearby Headmaster Diamond, seeing this, said with satisfaction, even magic nullification has a limit to its activation speed. Therefore, simply possessing that skill doesn't guarantee victory. You did very well, Cissuna. Back to our protagonist. Looking at the villain he had just beaten to a pulp below, he was also extremely pleased with his decision. Just as I predicted. The speed of a direct attack wouldn't give him time to cast his nullification spell. My choice to pursue close combat magic was absolutely the right one. With that thought, he turned to the headmaster. Headmaster, the problem has been dealt with. That was a splendid close combat technique. First, we must treat your injuries, Danny said with a nod. But just then, Leo's voice rang out. Well, I've really learned a lot. You always exceed my expectations. As he spoke, Leo struggled back to his feet, much to our protagonist's disbelief. He can still stand after taking that hit head-on, Cissuna thought to himself. Now it's my turn, Leo shouted, unleashing a sphere of magic aimed at Cissuna. In response to this attack, our protagonist immediately created a mana sword and slashed right at it. However, the sword shattered on impact with the dark sphere, and just like that, he took the full brunt of the attack. He was sent flying into a wall. Cissuna, Headmaster Danny yelled in worry. Meanwhile, after taking the hit, Cissuna understood why his mana sword had no effect earlier. His last spell. Did he combine long-range magic and magic nullification into a single attack? This is bad, my consciousness. As he thought this, Cisuna's consciousness gradually faded and then went out. The scene changes to some training ground. Here, Cissuna and Leo are happily practicing long-range magic together. At this distance, it's a piece of cake. Nice shot. Though I think hitting a stationary target is pretty simple, Cissuna said, bored. Ha, being praised by a master of long-range magic is making me a little nervous. Should I fire another magic arrow, I wonder this time the target will be your head, Leo said, turning to Cissuna with a cold voice. Meanwhile, Cissuna still didn't understand what was happening. Leo, what do you mean? You should understand. Look behind you, Cissuna. You're a failed hero. You're pathetic. You couldn't save anyone. Why didn't you save me? I trusted you so much. Voice after voice from his future comrades began to question him, causing Cissuna to jolt awake from the nightmare. Meanwhile, his friend Layla, seeing him wake up in a panic, said worriedly, Cissuna, thank goodness you're finally awake. Layla, where am I? You're in the Academy's infirmary. You've been unconscious for 3 days now. Her explanation made Cissúna's face go pale. 3 days. So, I didn't just lose once, but twice. 2 crushing defeats at the hands of the evil god. Lost in thought, Cissuna clenched his fists in rage. After a few seconds of composing himself, he remembered Headmaster Diamond and asked, by the way, how is the headmaster? He's probably in his private room. There's a meeting going on right now, Layla replied. Hearing this, Cissuna immediately got out of bed, making his friend very worried. Hey, where are you going? I want to see the headmaster to confirm a few things, Cissuna replied, but this only made Layla more anxious. Don't you care about your health at all? You're covered in injuries. In response to this concern, Cissuna said softly, I'm sorry for worrying you, but please let me go. After saying that, he quickly went to find the headmaster. And at that very moment, the meeting in Danny's private room had also concluded. All right then. In that case, I'm counting on all of you. Looks like we're going to be busy. The headmaster's trust feels a bit strange, the professors murmured among themselves. And just then, Cissuna burst through the door and shouted, Headmaster, you're awake! Cissuna, I'm so glad you're okay. Up front, seeing Cissuna appear, Lionel patted his shoulder reassuringly. It seems you had a rough loss. We can talk about this later. Lila and Drago were very worried about you. After saying that, he waved goodbye, leaving Cissuna and Daniel to talk alone. Once they had all left, our protagonist grit his teeth and said, I'm sorry for letting you down, sir. Can you please tell me what happened after that? As soon as he finished speaking, countless pains shot through Cissúna's body from his agitation. Don't get too worked up. You're still injured. Danny spoke up and began to explain everything that happened after you passed out. As he spoke, he recalled the events from the evening 3 days ago. After defeating Cissuna, that guy Leo had no intention of attacking further. I'd really love to finish you off right now, but it seems I've used up too much magic for today. Let's see. Still, the joy of victory feels pretty good. I'll be going now, Headmaster. See you later. He gave a polite farewell before stepping into the spatial rift behind him and disappearing. Meanwhile, Danny on the other side had no intention of stopping him. Go on. I don't want to let him escape, but inside that portal is something I've never seen before. A dark power. I need to prepare myself properly. Back in the present, after hearing the story, Cissuna stroked his chin and spoke. I see. The eyes inside the portal. An unknown existence. Do you perhaps know something about it, Cissuna? I want you to tell me exactly what you know. Headmaster Daniel said, his voice filled with seriousness. Those who have tasted defeat once will grow stronger. But for someone who has failed 3 times, Cisuna's 3rd attempt is now beginning. Back to our story. The headmaster also removed his glove, revealing a very strange magic seal. Then he asked, aside from that, do you also know about this magic? Can you tell me? I want to trust you. Hearing him ask this, Cissuna frowned in thought. The future, should I tell him about it? But a story about turning back time? He'll never believe me. The more he thought, the more restless Cissuna became, and Headmaster Daniel could see he was struggling. So he asked again, is there a reason you can't talk about it? Without answering his question, Cissuna continued to think, and suddenly an idea popped into his head. I know. What if I tell him about that? Cissuna spoke up. Headmaster, please check the necklace of rebirth. Over here. Daniel, hearing this, was a bit startled and took out the necklace to inspect it. Then he exclaimed, this is the blessing of the time spirit. It's gone. Does that mean it was used in another timeline? That's right, Headmaster. 15 years from now, out of regret, I used the necklace's power. After that, Cissuna began to explain in detail everything that had happened in the future, for him to hear. I understand the situation now. I was assassinated and the evil god destroyed the world. Indeed, this is a future that's hard to believe, if there wasn't any proof. However, even with the power of the time spirit, turning back time requires immense willpower to achieve. At this, he stood up, walked over to Cissuna, and placed a hand on his shoulder. You've had to bear this tragic fate all alone until now. From now on, I will be your strength. Thank you so much, sir. He said joyfully, thinking to himself, now I can finally face the evil god alongside the headmaster. The 2 of us will save the world from its fate of destruction. Back with Headmaster Daniel, he says, Cissuna, I will teach you the 2nd type of magic to confront the evil god. It's a special source of power that doesn't belong to any magic you've known before. It's called spirit magic. Let's move to a different location, shall we? After that, the 2 of them began to move towards that giant ancient tree. where Cissuna often trained. Here Daniel began to explain further. All right, now spirit magic is magic that combines the caster with a spirit. By using magic as a catalyst, it allows you to contain immense power within your body. Unlike the conventional magic system, this combination of magic becomes possible. That is its main characteristic. Beside him, Cissuna still looked a bit confused after the explanation, so the headmaster decided to demonstrate it for him directly. It's faster to show you than to explain it. As he finished speaking, a special symbol appeared in his eyes, just like when he fought that Leo fellow. Cissuna, let's play rock, paper, scissors. What? Cissuna asked, confused. Well, I can't exactly spar with someone who's injured, can I? Rock, paper, scissors? As he spoke, they both held out their hands, and the result was, the headmaster won. I win. Let's play again. The old man suggested they continue. However, the more they played, the more Cisuna's expression darkened, as he couldn't win a single time. He was even starting to question his own existence. And to answer his unspoken question, Headmaster Daniel revealed the answer. This is one of the powers of the time spirit and eye of perception. It allows me to see a few seconds into the future. There are many spirits in this world. If you make a pact with a wind spirit, you can learn to fly. If you have the power of a water spirit, you can evade physical attacks. Listening to the headmaster, Cissuna started to burn with excitement. This is amazing. It's beyond anything I could have imagined. If I master spirit magic, I'll be able to utilize my close combat magic even better. Unaware of Cisuna's thoughts, the headmaster continued his explanation. This magic requires a pact with a spirit, but first there are some basic steps. The timing is perfect. Let's try it right now. As he spoke, he closed his eyes and began to focus his spirit. After completing this step, he turned to explain again. Become one with nature by emptying your mind. Spirits exist everywhere. First, you must feel their presence. Hearing this, Cissuna also began to try. Is this how you do it? Oh, spirits, lend me your power to fight against the evil god, he began to call out in his mind. But after a few seconds passed, nothing happened. The young man's face was now turning purple. I can't feel anything. Seeing this, Headmaster Daniel said with some unease, this might be due to the resentment in your mind. To become one with nature, you must achieve a state of inner peace. In other words, don't think about anything, just feel. Following his words, Cissuna began to focus once more. Am I thinking too much? It's true. I'm always thinking that I have to try my hardest, be more efficient, get stronger as fast as I can. I can't lose again. If I lose again, I can't stop now. I have to get rid of these distractions. I have to try harder. But the more Cissuna tried to focus, the more he thought, and it was written all over his face, forcing the headmaster to reassure him. Don't be so hasty. It took me 3 years. And to become one with nature, you can master it within 5 years before the evil god descends. But that will be too late. I have to learn it as fast as possible. We don't know when the apostles will attack again, he said bitterly. Apostles? They're beings from the outer world. Just like the evil god, each one possesses a special source of magical power, and Leo, the one who uses nullification magic, is definitely an apostle. Before I regressed, I had only ever fought one apostle, and even though I had an advantage with long-range magic, they were still incredibly powerful. After hearing this, the headmaster mumbled to himself, the dark power of 12 individuals recorded in the legends of the Silverox family. The others must be hiding somewhere in this world as well. Just like Leo, Cissuna added, I understand how you feel, but don't rush. Emotional turmoil can lead to a crisis. As he said that, he seemed to think of something and spoke up. Ah, that's right. You might be able to grasp something while practicing inside a dungeon. Practicing in there, he asked again, but it seemed like it would take too long, so Headmaster Daniel didn't elaborate. Professor Lionel will explain the details to you there later. You'll have a chance to surpass your own limits, but this journey will be an arduous one. For now, just get some proper rest. In the end, you'll be surprised. Everything is just getting started. And so began the journey to master spirit magic. The scene shifts to a certain palace. Just then, the traitor Leo stepped inside and said with a forced laugh, Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late. Following his gaze, there were several other strange individuals already in the room, and as soon as Leo appeared, a werewolf stepped forward to complain. Making us wait for you. You've got some nerve, haven't you? You want to die. Leo. This guy is the 10th Dark Apostle Reagan. Without waiting for Leo to explain, someone dressed like a jester hanging upside down from the ceiling spoke up. Hey, Leo, is it true you couldn't even kill a single student? You acted on your own on this one, didn't you? What's more, you got injured and had to run away with your tail between your legs. So how do you plan on taking responsibility for this? This fake joker is the 9th Dark Apostle Booker. In response to their questioning, Leo just smiled brightly and explained, "Whoops, my apologies, seniors. I couldn't keep my calm in front of my other self. By the way, this Leo guy is ranked 12th among the apostles. Wipe that fake smile off your face. It's pissing me off." Reagan was so enraged that the two of them started a staring contest. Then, without a word, the werewolf suddenly launched an attack, but right at that moment, someone from the front spoke up. "Stop! If you're apostles, then act befitting your station. Do you still not understand his ideals?" The one who had just spoken up to stop them was the second apostle, Satanakia. After speaking, he unleashed an aura of power that pushed the other two back. "Since it has come to this, let's do it this way. First individual reports," Satanakia said. However, Reagan immediately protested. "Wait a minute. This idiot messed everything up. How are we going to deal with him? If he gets in our way, I'll deal with him myself." From above, the jester Booker enthusiastically suggested, "Just leave the assassination to me. That would be more interesting, wouldn't it? I have already made the arrangements. If it's that person, he will definitely complete the mission," Satanakia said calmly. Time passed quickly, and a few days after the exhibition match. In the lecture hall, Layla saw that Cissuna was back at school and worriedly asked, "Cissuna? You're able to come to school already. How are you feeling?" "I'm fine. As long as it's a theory class, I'll be okay," he said with a smile, but she wasn't convinced. "You got injured again after the final match. Something must have happened." Hearing this, Cissuna began to recall the headmaster's prior warning. "We cannot let the public know about the existence of the evil god and his apostles just yet. Therefore, I can only give some information to the most trusted professors. I will entrust them with the task of finding Leo and protecting the academy as well as the spirit magic training. It will be temporarily postponed." Back in the present, Cissuna smiled and replied, "Sorry for making you worry, but it's nothing." After he said that, his expression turned grim. "I have to recover as quickly as possible and get stronger." At that same moment, Professor Lionel walked in and announced, "Everyone to your seats. I will now introduce the upcoming joint training program for all courses." "Joint training program?" someone asked, puzzled, and the muscular professor calmly explained it to them. "The training will be conducted alongside other departments. Usually an exhibition match is held, so that you can understand the fighting styles of each department, but this time, we will study and work together to learn and find ways to surpass our own limits." Hearing this, Cissuna figured out that the purpose of the training was to improve teamwork among mages. Back to Lionel. "The training location will be the 1-star underground dungeon, because it's very dangerous. Participants will be volunteers. The training session will last for 2 weeks. Please prepare yourselves well until then." "So this is the joint training the headmaster mentioned. I have to heal my wounds first," he said to himself. After class ended for the day, Layla proposed to Cissuna, "Hey, Cissuna, would you like to have dinner with me? We need to eat and recover our strength before the training." "You're right, let's go." Cissuna nodded. Meanwhile, the other students recognized him and started whispering. "Hey, look, isn't that the champion of the exhibition tournament, Cissuna Cromgel? He's a close combat fighter, but he's incredible. Actually, I'm a fan of his." "They're all talking about you now, even though they were mocking you just a few days ago," Layla pointed out. However, Cissuna didn't seem to care much. At that moment, a few background characters suddenly blocked Cisuna's path. "You're the close combat mage who won the tournament, right?" "Yeah, that's me," he replied with a nod. Just then, the surrounding crowd recognized the guy in the fancy clothes and called out, "Look, isn't that Cass from the Noble Society? There's a rumor he's joining the army after graduation." The sounds of amazement rang out, making this Cass fellow look even more smug. "Cissuna Cromgel, Cissuna, I want to invite you to join my society. Only mages of high-ranking noble blood are permitted to join this community. Normally, this isn't a place a common close combat mage could enter, but I'll make an exception for you," he said in a condescending tone. It was as if he were giving alms to Cissuna, and of course, in making this offer, the guy had his own calculations. If the tournament champion joins our society, then nothing can stand in our way anymore. With that thought, he continued his pompous speech. "A tournament champion will need connections like these. If you continue to waste your time with that useless girl, Won't it just ruin your future? As he spoke, he pointed at Layla beside him. Faced with these wannabe nobles, Cissuna refused him flat out. I refuse. Bloodline and magic have nothing to do with each other. You're the one who's wasting my time. With that, Cissuna immediately turned to leave. The onlookers snickered, and just like your typical pathetic villains after being turned down by Cissuna, they started to get angry. How dare you insult a nobleman? As he spoke, the guy pulled out a chain and used his magic to transform it into a blade. You idiot! He snarled, intending to launch a sneak attack on Cissuna from behind. But before he could make his move, Layla grabbed his arm, holding it tight. Fighting is forbidden on school grounds. I wonder who the real troublemaker is here, she said. As she spoke, she glared at this phony nobleman. You bitch know your place. You commoner! The blonde-haired punk yelled simultaneously, turning his blade back into a chain. Only then did Layla release his hand. At the same moment, his two lackeys from behind charged forward. Are you guys okay? Are you hurt? You guys better remember our faces. They barked a few meaningless threats, but were cut off. Shut your mouths! I will be reporting this to my father. Back to Layla, after letting out a sigh of relief, she turned and gave Cissuna a bright smile, letting him know that she had grown stronger. But just then, a female voice called out from behind Cissuna. Oh, Karen, I'm glad you're all right. Yes, and it's all thanks to you, Cissuna. You see, I want to express my gratitude. So, Cissuna, would you be able to come to my room now? As she spoke, a slight blush appeared on Carol's face. Time passed quickly, and the scene shifts to Karen's private room as Cisuna's group arrives. She welcomed them with a bright smile. To thank you for saving me, please let me treat you to a meal I've cooked myself. Thanks for your hospitality, he said, scratching his head. It's nothing at all, I'll get started right away. So please just wait a little while. Hearing this, Layla stepped forward to help. Let me help you. Doing everything by yourself must be tiring, right? In that case, thank you, Karen said, tossing an apron to Layla. At that moment, Layla blushed slightly at her own embarrassing thought. It's just cooking. At first, I thought it was going to be something lewd. At the same time, the muscular Drago spoke up. So why was I invited too? The more the merrier, Karen replied with a smile. Stepping into the kitchen, Layla was truly surprised. Wow, you even have ingredients with healing properties. Well, they're called therapeutic foods after all. And just like that, the two girls dove into cooking together. Meanwhile, our protagonist outside was lost in thought. According to the headmaster, Ma'am. Karen doesn't remember anything about the incident involving Leo. It could be temporary amnesia from the shock, or perhaps her memories were manipulated. I'm glad that nothing more serious happened this time. But there's still a chance others are being targeted. Beside him, the muscular guy noticed Cissuna spacing out and spoke up. Are you thinking about that again? Hey, I'm talking to you. You're always trying to do everything yourself. Why don't you take a break? A break, huh? Cissuna murmured, as if genuinely considering whether or not he should let himself relax for a bit. However, just then, a commotion erupted from the kitchen. Wait, you added way too much. Oh dear. Panicked sounds began to emerge, making the two boys a little worried. It sounds like they're in combat training. Is it dangerous? Are you kidding me? Drago replied. Then, for some reason, Karen had to run outside to ask for help. Drago, I'm so sorry, but could you please give us a little help? Sure, I don't mind, he said confidently. But when he actually stepped into the kitchen, he began to have some regrets. Why do I have to wear this? He muttered, his face looking as grim as a terminal cancer patient's, as a muscular guy like him was forced to wear an incredibly feminine apron. As for Karen, she could only stand beside him, clasping her hands apologetically. I'm sorry. We only have maid aprons. All right, fine. All right, let's do this, Layla said excitedly. After a while, the group finally finished preparing a feast with a picture the author probably downloaded from Shopee. Let's eat. Sorry we might have cooked a little too much, Layla said, a bit embarrassed. But Cissuna didn't see it as a problem. It's fine. They cooked all of this for me. The least I can do is eat all of it, till. Next, I'll use physical enhancement to speed up my digestion. By combining magic with his eating, this guy started to wolf down his food like he was starving so much, so that even this red-haired girl looked a bit worried about him. He was fine, though. This 8-chicken-egg soup is really delicious. Its flavor is so rich and perfectly savory. I made that soup, you know. There's still plenty left, Drago bragged. Looks like we really have to reevaluate this guy. Even though he looks a little intimidating when it comes to cooking, he's no slouch. Well, then I'll have some more of that soup. Cissuna said gleefully, and his words also made Karen feel like she'd lost to a man. I lost just like that. The group began to enjoy their meal together, and Cissuna thoroughly enjoyed the atmosphere. This isn't so bad. But in my past life, my peaceful life was destroyed by the evil god. I won't let that happen again. This time I absolutely will not lose, Cissuna told himself. Then 2 weeks later at the one-star dungeon, it was the day of the joint training. The students who had volunteered for the session were gathered here. "You're in top form, right?" Drago asked. "Yeah, it's all thanks to the healing food you made for me these past few days." "Thanks." Cissuna nodded in reply, and the guy waved his hand. "Don't mention it. It's for your own good and for our close-quarters magic. If you don't continuously eat the healing food, our team's effectiveness today will drop significantly." Hearing him say that, Cissuna couldn't help but smile. I'm still on the same team as Drago this time. I can trust him with my back. At the same time, 2 people approached them from behind. "Hey, sorry to keep you 2 waiting." "Oh, the formation specialists are here," Drago said. Then the 2 of them introduced themselves. "I'm Mifune, a 3rd year from the Formation Arts Department, and she is Yuzua." "Hey, you 2, Yuzua said with a smile as the 2 guys in front also began their introductions. "I'm Drago Upgrade from the Close Quarters Combat Department." "I'm Cissuna Chrome Girl." "So you're the one who won the friendly match, huh? You look very reliable." "Let's work well together, you 2, Drago," he said enthusiastically, which made Cissuna and Drago feel more at ease. "He seems like a pretty friendly guy." "Yeah, over here," Yuzua also whispered in a voice that only Mifune could hear. "You look very polite. You've already made them lower their guard. Do I look that way? Sometimes you have to be two-faced." As he spoke, Mifune revealed a truly villainous face. Meanwhile, the supervising professor, seeing that all the groups had gathered, called everyone together and gave his instructions. "It seems all the students have gathered here. The training exercise will begin now. I am Giovanni, and I am the one responsible for this joint training trip. This joint training trip is a collaboration between the Formation Arts and Close Quarters Combat Departments. The dungeon you will be entering today is the Demon Ceiling Ruins. Ancient monsters and undead have been confirmed to exist inside, and it is a 1-star dungeon. During this training course, you must defeat monsters in actual combat. Your achievements will be recorded by this memory bracelet. Loot dropped from monsters will be counted as extra points. The team with the highest score will receive a medal from the Academy. Furthermore, anyone with more than 100 individual points will have the chance to participate in training with the Kingdom's Mage Battalion." Up ahead, when Cissuna heard this, he recalled some memories from his past life. "The Mage Battalion, huh? Mage? I remember them. They are the strongest mages in this kingdom. I'll get to see my comrades from my past life again. If I can join their training course, I can meet them again." Back to Professor Giovanni. At that moment, he was handing out bracelets to everyone and gave further instructions. "We will not be going down to the deeper floors. There is a chance of encountering monsters that you cannot handle on your own. That is why you are absolutely forbidden from entering the deeper floors. In an emergency, you can channel mana into your bracelet and you will be teleported out of here. My goal is 100 individual points." "No, it should be 200. Both Cissuna and Drago said out loud, which made Layla, who was behind them, chuckle. After that, the 2 of them turned to look at each other in surprise. "I'm expecting you to pull that off," Drago said as he pointed to his bracelet, and Cissuna confidently affirmed, "You got it." Ignoring their chatter, Professor Giovanni spoke in a serious tone. "Are you all ready? Now the joint training course officially begins." And just like that, after Professor Giovanni spoke, those 2 big shots charged ahead as if they were afraid someone else would get all the monsters. And the deeper they went, the more surprised they were by the vastness of this dungeon. 1-star dungeon Demon Ruins. It's a ruin built by an ancient civilization. They say everything inside is still unexplored, and the monsters in here will be hostile to intruders like us. Even with the teleportation magic we have, this is still a pretty dangerous training exercise, he reminded them. At the same time, the 2 of them reached the end of the hallway. "Look, Cissuna, the door's open," the big guy exclaimed. And then what appeared before them was a massive hall. "Amazing, I never thought there'd be a room this huge." "Underground." Beside him, Cissuna nodded in agreement. "I see some ancient plants. Was there really a civilization in these ruins? I remember the headmaster saying this training would be useful for a future mission. My current goals are spirit magic and the points from this training exercise. I'll get as many as I can," Cissuna thought with determination. Just then, the rest of the students began to arrive one by one. "Geez," You two are too fast, the guy Mifun complained, and it was here that their path split in two, causing the group to hesitate. This is where we split up. Which way should we go? Is this the right way? The other paths are obviously traps. Murmurs began to spread through the group. Seeing this, the fox-faced guy Mifun scoffed from the back. That's right. A bunch of idiots. In a training exercise, they said going down the deeper path is the right choice. As he said this, he pointed in one direction and suggested, "We'll go that way." Back to Cissuna, he also agreed with Mifun's words. Since this was a scramble for points, what he said wasn't wrong. But thinking about it, he walked up to a wall in front of them and knocked on it. "Is this wall fake, Cissuna?" Drago asked. "That's right. These plants are growing here in a strange way." "I suspect there's a large room behind it," Cissuna explained. However, Mifun wasn't convinced and thought it was just a coincidence. "No, I can hear the wind on the other side." Cissuna continued to persuade them, but before he could finish, the big guy, Drago, channeled his magic and punched straight through the wall, shattering it into pieces. At the same time, it revealed a secret passage behind it. "See, this is the right way, isn't it?" Cissuna said with a smile. After that, the four of them quickly moved on. "Yeah, that was smart. And Drago's strong, too. This way we'll get more points." The fox-faced guy let out a cunning laugh, and so they started down a spiral staircase and accidentally triggered a rock trap, causing a giant boulder to fall from above. "Leave it to me," Drago yelled simultaneously, using his mana sword to shatter the massive rock. "You're really excited, Drago. Of course, if we show them how strong we are, they'll have to acknowledge melee mages. Besides, I don't want to lose to you," Drago said with a laugh. But right after that, a few arrows came flying from behind the group. Luckily, Cissuna spotted them in time and managed to dodge. Then our protagonist used his own agility to weave through the arrows and destroy the magic circle that was firing them. Not just his reflexes, but his perception is on another level too, Drago thought, impressed. He then said, "Now we should start disarming traps. It'll be easier with the third-year seniors here." Drago suddenly noticed something and shouted, "Look, Cissuna, there's a chest!" However, before the two of them could reach it, a figure flew past them from behind. After that, the chest was teleported into the hands of the fox-faced guy Mifun, who was behind them. "Nice, got one. Thanks for letting me have it, Drago," the guy said mockingly. At the same time, his current score was 15. Behind him, Drago's face went blank. He said in a regretful tone, "So this is a contest of speed. I won't lose next time." And so, they continued deeper into the dungeon. But whenever Cissuna and Drago found a treasure chest, that guy Mifun would quickly snatch it from behind them. Even when fighting monsters, he would use his teleportation magic to rush in and steal the kill without any shame. As a result, the big guy Drago was exhausted as an ox, but had hardly earned any points. "You're strong, but you lack observation skills. At this rate, you'll never catch up," he lectured condescendingly, making Drago's face darken with anger. Meanwhile, Cissuna now understood exactly what kind of person he was. "Discussing how to share points is crucial in dungeon exploration, yet you steal them from your juniors. Is that how you do things?" Cissuna confronted him. "You're pretty blunt, aren't you?" Mifun replied. "Well, that's just how it is sometimes. I'm not some muscle head who only knows how to train. You know, you're talking about all those rules and regulations, aren't you? First of all, humanity has always been known to use others to achieve their goals. If you're that mad about it, then why don't you go ahead and do it, that is if you even can." Mifuni's provocative words actually made Cissuna rate him higher. This guy's pretty sly. He can teleport with ease because he has two different types of magic circles. It's very convenient and catches people off guard, but it still has a weakness. And so does Mifun. We've been fighting monsters for a while now, but it seems she doesn't care much about her score. Does she have another objective? Cissuna pondered. This isn't good. Just a little more. We'll clear this place out in no time, the fox-faced guy said with a grin. Their current scores: Yuzua 50 points, Mifune 80 points, Cissuna 35 points, Drago 10 points. Back to Cissuna. As he stepped inside the room, he suddenly sensed something incredibly strange. However, before he could make a judgment, Mifune started using his usual trick, using a paper doll to teleport the chest. But unfortunately for him, it failed this time. Just as the paper doll flew near the chest began to emit an incredibly bizarre aura. Cissuna realized something was wrong and quickly tried to stop him. "Wait, that thing is... only a fool would wait." Mifune complained, unaware of the danger that was about to befall him, and just as Cissuna had feared right after that, The chest shot out a blast of energy, sending Mifune flying backward. Then, a hand reached out from inside the chest. This was supposed to be a 1-star dungeon, but this monster, it's on a completely different level. Is there something wrong with this dungeon? Cissuna worried as he looked at the corpse before him. Why would he be in a place like this? The Lich King. They say his black flames bring nightmares. Cissuna wondered to himself as the Lich King himself complained to them, "You who have disturbed my slumber will pay with your lives." As he spoke, he stuck out his meter-long tongue to intimidate the group in front of him. And it worked. The big guy's face showed a hint of worry. "It can talk!" No time to answer. Cissuna immediately got into a fighting stance. "He's dangerous. Get Mifune out of here. I'll hold him off." "Hey, Cissuna, how many points do you think this guy is worth?" The big guy's voice was filled with excitement. However, the Lich King in front of them had no intention of letting them chat any longer and launched another attack. He aimed straight for the fox-faced guy, forcing Cissuna to rush forward and slash the attack apart with his mana sword. At the same time, the big guy Drago also started to charge in for an attack. But before he could even run a few meters, he was stopped by several magic circles created by the Lich King. What he set up magic circles everywhere, he thought, gritting his teeth right before the circles exploded, knocking Drago back. Luckily, Drago managed to use his mana to protect his body in time, or else he would have been in real danger. Back to the Lich King. After pushing Drago back, he created countless other dark magic circles, aiming them at Cissuna. Just one look at this attack was enough for him to know the Lich King was using multicasting. His intelligence and power were definitely at a 4-star level, a huge disparity compared to the 1-star dungeon that the professor mentioned earlier. Then countless streams of dark energy shot out from the magic circles, forcing Cissuna to swing his sword continuously to fight back. However, the Lich King hadn't forgotten about Mifune and created another magic circle right above his head. "Wake up, Mifune!" Cissuna shouted, however. It seemed it wasn't Mifune's time to die yet. At the critical moment, Drago ran over and shattered the magic circle with his sword. Only then did the fox-faced guy groggily wake up. Meanwhile, turning to Yuzua, 2 magic circles also appeared above her head, targeting her. And whether Yuzua noticed or not, she didn't react at all. In the end, it was Cissuna who had to rush over and pull her aside. "Are you all right?" "Ah, I'm fine. Thank you," she said calmly, which made Cissuna feel that something was off, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Where on earth is this feeling coming from? Then after saving the 2 liabilities, he turned to Drago. "Drago, let's begin." "Yeah, I've been waiting for this," Drago said excitedly, while the fox-faced Mifune schemed in the background, planning to steal the kill. "What the hell are those guys talking about? Not that I really care. I'll just steal the points and get out of here." He chuckled to himself. It seemed Drago sensed something too. So he turned back and asked, "Are you plotting something?" "Of course not. How could I do something like that to the person who saved me?" Mifune hurriedly clasped his hands and spoke, but only he knew the true intentions in his heart. As for the simple-minded Drago, he heard this and believed every word of it. "I won't let you get those points back with Cissuna." Just before the fight, he started to remember. Back then, he couldn't beat Leo because his bullets weren't powerful enough. So I have to train again from the very basics. "Professor Lionel, I've finished all my training. Is there any other way to get stronger?" There really isn't any other way. I knew this was going to happen sooner or later. But this is a bracelet that's been infused with weight magic. If you get used to wearing this bracelet, then your power will increase dramatically when you take it off. But I wouldn't recommend it for someone like Cissuna who's still recovering. This method is outdated and extreme. That's why you have to use it carefully," Lionel said with a smile. "Thank you so much, Professor," both of them shouted. "Since that day, I've worn them all over my body. Time to take these off." As he thought this, he casually removed the bracelet and tossed it aside, creating a small crater in the ground right in front of Mifune. Seeing this, he could barely believe his eyes. What in the world were they wearing? He screamed internally, and then, after waiting for this group to get ready, the Lich finally began to attack again with its dark magic. However, these attacks were avoided by Cissuna and Drago. They dodged with their incredible speed, and as for the attacks they couldn't evade, they both just shattered them with their bare fists, just like that. It's like the 2 of them closed in on the Lich, and then the muscular Drago delivered a punishing axe kick straight to its head, making the monster's tongue loll out. However, just moments later, it shot out a hand and grabbed Drago's ankle while its tongue wrapped around his other leg, all while creating a magic circle directly beneath him. You focus on defense, Drago yelled, and before the magic circle below could activate both of them, unleashed a sweeping kick from either side, completely deforming the Lich's face. It was unrecognizable. After that, another explosion erupted, spreading a cloud of purple smoke. Cissuna and Drago took the chance to fall back in case the smoke was poisonous and waited for it to clear. When it did, the Lich's skull had vanished. I got the points. How about you? I got them too. We defeated it at the same time, so the points got split, Drago replied. The zombie's life was worth 100 points. Split in two, they each received 50 points. Are they only just getting serious now? I've never seen anyone so powerful in close combat, Mifune thought to himself in a panic. At the same time, Cissuna turned and asked the others, Yuzua, her wound, where did she go? He wondered aloud as Yuzuha's figure had disappeared at some point. But before the group could even begin to look for her, a violent tremor suddenly shook the area, and then the ground beneath their feet cracked apart and collapsed in an instant, nearly sending Mifune plummeting down with it. Luckily, Cissuna grabbed his hand just in time and pulled him up. The collapse of the floor also revealed what was underneath. It was countless zombies shambling about aimlessly. This horde! Fall back! Cissuna yelled when he saw the zombies had spotted them and were now charging to attack. What in the world is going on in this dungeon? He wondered to himself. After that, the group of three had to engage the horde of zombies. Wipe them all out, Cissuna shouted while Mifune was starting to grow anxious. No matter how many of them we kill, we're still not getting any more points. Cissuna, don't you get it? This isn't the time for an endless fight, he thought, glancing over at Cissuna. Meanwhile, Cissuna was also observing the zombies, writhing on the ground, and he understood everything. I see. So that's why we're not getting any points. The living dead are being revived by dark magic. Damn it. They just keep on coming. Drago complained while Mifune also began shouting a warning. This dungeon is so strange. These aren't the kind of monsters that should appear in a one-star dungeon. At that moment, Cissuna suddenly sensed something. It startled him. This feeling, the energy is coming from the floor below. Does anyone else feel that an evil power is radiating from the floor below? What is it? Are you sure you're not mistaken? Mifune asked as he casually lopped the head off a zombie in front of him. No, I'm positive. But I don't know who the source of that energy is. It could be Senior Yuzua. Either way, we have to go, so let's just head down first, Drago suggested, and then immediately ran downstairs. Cissuna also tried to reason with him. We don't have any other choice. If you stay here by yourself, you'll just slowly wither away and die. What was that? Are you looking down on me? No, I'm just stating a fact. You can't do anything but steal points from Drago, right? Cissuna said sarcastically before jumping straight down. That's my strategy, Mifune yelled, but this guy wasn't an idiot. He wouldn't stay behind to face a horde of zombies alone. I hate zombies, I hate dungeons, and I hate this team. Damn it, I guess I just have to go with them. As he spoke, Mifune also threw a paper doll below to teleport after them. The three of them began to fight their way downward again. Seeing Cissuna and Drago coordinate so perfectly, he couldn't help but feel a bit curious despite the dire situation. But you two are pretty skilled. Have you guys trained together before? You're getting pretty chatty, Senior Mifune. Drago complained, clearly still bitter about Mifune kill-stealing his points. Well, it's better than listening to the sound of screaming zombies, Mifune explained. Meanwhile, Cissuna sensed something again, and he warned the other two, I can feel an intense power coming from this direction. As he spoke, he led the other two in the direction he had sensed. And there, the three of them witnessed a giant eye. Is this the source of the darkness? It has to be. An eyeball monster, they exclaimed in surprise. Even with all the knowledge from his past life, Cissuna still couldn't recognize it. What on earth is this thing? This is the first time I've ever encountered a monster like this. Usually a dungeon's energy source is a magic circle, Cissuna wondered. Meanwhile, Mifune, falling back into his old habits, was preparing to steal the kill. Geez, these people. Do they still not understand how to conquer a dungeon? Well, then I'll just make my move now. He secretly took out a paper doll, preparing to steal the kill, but unfortunately for him, Drago spotted the act. So he immediately rushed forward and pushed Mifune aside. Oh man, finally a chance to stretch my muscles. Excuse me, don't just go stretching out of nowhere, Mifune chided. In the meantime, Cissuna dealt with the eye, earning 10 points. Immediately after, the sound of screaming zombies rose up from behind the group again, much to their annoyance. The zombies are rising up again. Did they realize we destroyed their source of magic? From here on out, we'll earn points and complete the mission, Cissuna declared while the big guy was already cracking his knuckles in excitement. Let's just beat the hell out of them to blow off some steam. Beside them, Mifune saw their enthusiasm and thought to himself, these two kids are really confident. But now's not the time to be afraid. Time to get 100 points and escape this dungeon. Returning to Cissuna, he asked the fox-faced young man, Senior Mifune, before the zombies charge at us, do you know anything about Senior Yuzuha's whereabouts? To answer his two questions, Mifune thought for a moment and said, Frankly, I don't know either. Maybe she got scared and ran off, no way. Even when the Death King attacked us, she didn't seem scared at all. Something's really strange. And all these monsters are types we've never seen in a one-star dungeon before. The fact that it's giving off dark energy? I might be overthinking it, but it's possible the apostles had a hand in this. If that's the case, it would be very dangerous for Drago and the others here. I hope Yuzua and everyone are okay. Cissuna prayed silently, and in just a few breaths, the zombies had found them. Here they come! All right, bring it on, my points! Drago shouted. After that, the group started charging in to slaughter the zombies, and the scores of all three rose non-stop. Thanks to them, after this group of monsters fell, they reached the 200-point mark. All right, we've hit our 200-point goal. Cissuna, 225 points. Drago, 210 points. Mifune, 125 points. This number also met Mifune's quota, so he wanted to leave immediately. I'm out of here. See you later.
See, you weaklings.
As he spoke, he prepared to activate his teleportation bracelet to get out. However, Drago was a little surprised to hear him say that. Wait, aren't you going to look for Senior Yuzua? Aren't you two friends? Friends, I only just met her yesterday. She's a weirdo who acts like everyone's her friend. I'm sure she's outside crying in fear right now. Just yesterday, you say? Cissuna asked, puzzled. However, this Mifune guy had no intention of explaining further. Later. I'm bouncing. After saying that, he directly pressed the button to activate the bracelet. Seeing this, Cissuna just turned to leave. I'll just have to find her myself then. Wait, what's going on? We can't return to the surface, Mifune said nervously after he activated the bracelet and nothing happened. Well, then there's no choice but to walk back, Cissuna spoke up. No way, that can't be, Mifune said as he hurriedly chased after the two. Meanwhile, Drago also tried it with the same result. Looks like it's true. Is there something wrong with the bracelet? Drago said with a slightly worried expression. And behind them, Cissuna once again felt that energy. There it is again. A suspicious, magical energy is radiating from the floor below. As he thought this, the concern in his heart grew, making it impossible for him to ignore this problem. Drago Senior Mifune. I'm going to look for Senior Yuzua. I'm fine going by myself. Are you for real? Did you fall in love with Yuzua or something? The fox-faced guy asked, confused by Cisuna's actions. All for someone you don't even know. But upon hearing this, his close friend Drago offered to go with him. Senior Mifune has helped us enough. I'll go with you. Okay, that works. I can feel a strong magical energy coming from below. If you sense any danger, don't push yourself. I understand. Drago nodded in agreement. Back to Mifune. He saw the two of them planning as if it was a done deal. He had to speak up and remind them, hey, first we need to get out and report to Professor Giovanni. How are you so sure Yuzua is down there? In response, Cissuna turned and explained, It's faint, but I can feel her energy. Please report to Professor Giovanni for us, Senior. Please be careful on your way back. After saying that, the two of them left immediately, making Mifune want to scream internally. What's wrong with these kids? It's possible Yuzua already escaped. Going deeper will be really dangerous, but getting out of here alone is also too dangerous. Damn it. Why is this happening? Why does nothing ever go my way? The more the fox-faced guy thought about it, the more he was torn between leaving or staying. In the end, Drago made the decision for him. Let's go find Yuzua-senpai and get out of here. All right, I'll go look for her too. Let's find her quickly and head back together. Mifune sighed and kept talking. As they headed down, he voiced his confusion. Drago and I can't sense Yuzuha's energy at all. How did you manage to detect her? It just comes with a lot of practice. I guess that makes sense, Mifune said, sounding bored. It's suddenly gotten so cold down here, and the air is thinner too, Drago added as the three of them reached a fork in the path. Suddenly a sound echoed through the passage. What was that? Mifune wondered aloud, but Cissuna held up a hand signaling him to stop. He then pointed in one direction. It's coming from over there. And just like that, the three of them quickly ran towards the source of the sound. It didn't take long for Drago to spot a figure and call out, Someone's over here! Yuzua-senpai, are you okay? Following their gaze, they saw that Yuzua was sitting on some kind of dark magic circle, and one side of her body was withered like a shriveled corpse. Help! Me! She said, trembling as she reached a hand out to them. Seeing her in such a state, Mifun grew worried and asked, "What happened to you?" "Wait, Drago, don't get any closer," Cissuna yelled, just as Drago was about to touch Yuzua. "This is an ancient trap," Cissuna continued, thinking to himself. "There are no signs of any traps being activated in this dungeon. It must be an item imbued with dark magic. It's the same item my friend bought from the black market in my past life. I don't think Yuzua would use this on purpose. Someone else must have set this up." Finishing his thought, Cissuna said to the other two, "We can use a specialized spell to disable this trap. If we use a magical weapon, it will only destroy the magic circle itself. Then leave it to me." "We'll get on with it then." The big guy urged him on, but Cissuna didn't need to be told. He had already formed a mana sword and plunged it straight into the magic circle, shattering it into nothing. And as he caught Yuzua, he heard her mumble in a daze, "I can't let Cissuna get any further." What could she mean by that? He wondered to himself. Then his eyes fell on Yuzuha's earrings. It seems the magic was activated by this earring. From behind, Mifun asked, "Did this happen because she was being careless? What's going to happen to Yuzua now?" "I don't know either, but for now we should go meet up with the others. We can report this to the professors later," Cissuna replied, his mind racing. This wasn't just a random accident. The apostles have to be involved in this incident. Hearing this, Drago nodded in agreement. "I still have a lot of questions, but we need to get out of here first. Hey, Mifun-senpai, can you use that bracelet of yours to get us back?" "Let me try," Mifun said, quickly pressing the button. However, nothing happened. "Just as I thought. It's no use." "Did Professor Giovanni give us a broken device?" Mifun wondered. Meanwhile, Cissuna tried pressing Yuzuha's bracelet and got the same result. "Yuzua-senpai's bracelet is the same." "Hers doesn't work either," the fox-faced young man exclaimed. But before they could speculate any further, the area around them began to tremble violently. "Cissuna, we have to keep moving. It's an earthquake. We have to get out of here now, everyone run," Drago yelled, taking the lead to clear a path. "Damn it, what the hell is going on?" Mifun gritted his teeth just before a giant boulder fell, blocking their path. Luckily, Drago spotted it in time, smashing the rock and pulling him forward. "Senpai, hurry up. It's no use. Looks like we're trapped. The path is completely blocked by rubble. Instead of trying to smash our way through, we should find a safer route," Cissuna suggested. But at that very moment, Layla's group was also caught in the earthquake. "Is anyone there?" she called out, and a moment later a weak voice replied, "Please, help us." "Over there. Hurry, we need to clear this rubble." Layla quickly directed everyone to begin the rescue. After pulling the bald man out, she used her magical equipment to heal him. "I'll use some healing magic to ease the pain. Where are the others?" "There's one more person behind the rubble," the bald man said weakly. "Cissuna, Sidrago, you two better be safe," the girl prayed silently. Back with Cissuna and Mifune's group, they had already fallen into despair. "This shouldn't be happening," he gritted his teeth. The big guy Drago was also losing heart. "Can't you use your barrage skill or something?" "I thought about it, but it's too risky. We could cause another earthquake," Cissuna explained. "As long as we can move this pile of rubble, we should be fine," Drago suggested, but Cissuna immediately shut him down. "But the air is getting thinner and we're getting exhausted. Is there really no other way?" "There is one other way. But for it to work, we have to go deeper underground," Cissuna continued. However, Drago turned to look at Mifune and Yuzua. Then he said, his voice filled with helplessness, "Go deeper in our condition." Cissuna knew he couldn't take everyone with him, so he announced he would go down alone. Mifune, however, couldn't understand where his confidence was coming from. "I know you're strong, but the deeper you go, the stronger the monsters get. If you're not absolutely sure about this, you should just stay here," Mifune advised, but Cissuna explained his reasoning. "I can't make any guarantees, but the reason for these earthquakes, is probably because the dungeon boss has woken up. As for why we can't teleport out, it's because our mana is being disrupted by a much stronger flow. A stronger mana signature is causing interference. Basically, this isn't a one-star dungeon anymore." "As expected of you, Cissuna. You really know your stuff," Drago said. After hearing Cisuna's explanation, Mifune no longer intended to stop him. "You're staying here, right, Drago? I'll be waiting for good news, Cissuna." "You can count on me," our hero affirmed. Drago also remembered to add a warning, just in case you should mark the path you take. "Got it. I'll definitely save everyone," Cissuna replied with a nod, then quickly departed. Then as he descended deeper, Cissuna analyzed the situation. "I can't believe the boss can affect a dungeon this massive. I don't even know the limits of close combat magic. If I had the fire element or even purification magic, I could have dealt with these undead
Much more easily.
One of the weaknesses of close combat magic is its lack of elemental attributes. Most of its spells are just direct attacks, but that's fine. I can feel something burning up inside me. Back with Drago's group, while Cissuna was making his way down, the big guy was busy trying to clear the rocks. Drago, I always thought it was just a coincidence that he won all those sparring matches with close combat magic, but I was wrong. I've been cheating this whole time while you guys were honestly training your bodies. I wonder who the real fool is. Mifune started rambling. His brain clearly lacking oxygen, these words that sounded like a last will made Drago try to comfort him. Hey, senpai, don't say such miserable things. We're definitely going to survive and get out of here. Just then, a voice called out from the other side. Hey, is anyone there? We're in here, Drago shouted. Hearing the familiar voice, someone on the other side said, I can hear voices from in there, and Layla immediately recognized Drago's voice. Drago, are you in there? What about Cissuna? We're all in here. Cissuna went to find another way out. Sorry, I don't have the strength to shout anymore, Mifune mumbled. All right, everyone, help me move this rubble, someone yelled. Meanwhile, back with Cissuna, he had reached the center of the dungeon. The air is getting so heavy. The center of the dungeon, Cissuna thought to himself as he observed a path up ahead, glowing with specks of blue light. Maybe they lead to the exit, but the boss has already woken up, so the path is probably blocked by a barrier. But even though this place is overflowing with dark energy, there's nothing here. How strange. I can't let my guard down, Cissuna told himself. Just then 4 glowing eyes appeared above him, followed by the mouth of some great beast. Filled with fangs, it lunged down from above. Judging by its shape, it looked like some kind of giant serpent. The heavy impact of its body tore up the ground, sending dust and debris flying everywhere. And once again, Cissuna emerged from the attack completely unharmed. However, upon getting a closer look at the monster's form, he couldn't stay calm any longer. What is this thing? 2 heads, a 2-headed hydra,